begin the meeting. I'm going to call the meeting to order. And may I have the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Cynthia,
Sure.
I'm going to ask you to lead us in that.
Okay, and you can see the flag in one of the other squares right there. Can you all see that?
Yeah, it's in the background.
Perfect. Okay, ready, begin. I pledge
allegiance
to the
to
flag
the United States of America
and
and
to
to the republic for which it stands,
One
one nation, under God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
liberty,
liberty and
justice
justice
for all.
for all.
Wow, that sounded really good.
Thank you, Tina. Great guys. Alrighty, Cynthia, will you do a roll call, please? Before you do that, let me announce to my colleagues here that Eileen is functioning at home and is watching this on television. And so if we have a bump here or there or a hiccup here or there, she's going to alert Cynthia, for example, if public input is going on and I forget to close public hearing, she will contact Cynthia, who will give me an eyeball or remind me to close public hearing or something of that nature. So we appreciate Eileen's assistance with that. But Cynthia will be serving the part of reading public input, any input that has come in via email regarding our meeting or any agenda item that we have. So Cynthia, I'm going to ask you to go ahead with the roll call, please.
Okay, Joe Zidron,
Here.
Joreen Campopiano,
Here.
Gary McCacken,
Here.
Chris Kaczynski,
Here.
and Chair Susan Ambrose.
Here.
And John McWegan has resigned for personal matters. So he will not be serving anymore. So we have a vacant seat.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that news. He was a wonderful contributor to our committee. I'm sure my colleagues agree with me. He will be missed.
Yes.
Okay, let us move on to item number 4, nominations and elections of chair and vice chair. Would somebody like to make a nomination for chairperson, please?
I can start. I would like to nominate our current chair, Susan Ambrose, to continue in the position of chair. I think she's done, always gone above and beyond with this committee, and feel like, this is where her passion lies, and I think she's done a really great job, on the work plan and really helping us kind of get focused for next year. And so I'd like to see her in that position again.
This is Chris Kaczynski. I'll second that.
Oh, thank you. Are there any other nominations, though? I see none. No lights going on. Well, then I'm going to ask you to vote on this. And Cynthia, my understanding is we go person by person. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that's going to be best.
Okay. I'm going to look at the squares on the screen right here. So Gary, I'm going to go to you.
Aye.
Okay, Joe. Joe, what
Aye.
is your vote, please?
Aye.
Thank you. Joreen Campopiano.
Aye.
Thank you. Chris Kaczynski.
Aye.
Thank you. And myself, I'm an aye as well. Thank you very much. That is the unanimous vote. 6-0. Of course, there was not another nominee. That should be noted as well. And then let us have nominations for vice chair, please. The floor is open.
I nominate our current vice chair.
I will second that motion. And I saw Joe's thumb up as well.
Yep. Yeah. I'm an aye. I support that for sure.
I do too. Are there any other nominations for vice chair? Seeing no voices come on, no microphones turned on or off, I'm going to go through the voting process again. Gary, we'll start with you, please, sir.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Joe?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Joreen? I'll come to you last. Too late. I see you already voted me. Okay, Joreen said yes. Myself, yes. Chris?
Aye.
Thank you very much. That is a unanimous vote, 6-0, to have Joreen Campopiano as our continuing vice chair. And may I say, Joreen has always been there for me if I've needed a vice chair. I've called a meeting with an official, or we wanted to go talk to somebody, and I call her usually when you're trying to see an official or something, or even one of our council members. They may just let me know at the last minute if you can be here by 5, or tomorrow morning at 10:35, or something of that nature. Joreen, whenever she can, has pitched right in, and all of you who have practiced with Joreen, we've been lucky to do so. She always comes prepared. She has her homework done, and she has great questions. So we usually walk out with more than we came in with in terms of the benefits of that meeting because of Joreen's skills and our determination. So thank you very much for the work that you do for us, Joreen.
Thanks, Susan.
All
I do
right.
have a quick question, because I know everything has sort of been as far as the extensions in terms of our positions. Do all of ours extend out through this year, or
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And I want to clarify on the vote count. Both of those were 5-0.
Oh, well, Chris counts, doesn't he? Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you very much.
2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, 5 of you. So
I so automatically include John. I apologize. Thank you for that correction.
I'm going to try and close my blind here so I don't have this reflection. Hold on.
Okay. And I apologize. I think I joined right at time. Chris, was he a new member? Is he from planning or from Beaches, Parks and Rec? I apologize if you were.
I was just about to introduce him.
Cool. Thank you.
And Chris, I'm actually going to ask you to jump in and introduce yourself, but I can tell you the story behind this is we were pleasantly surprised that planning decided, I think it was last month, to ask if there was going to be a representative to Coastal Advisory Committee. And a couple of the planning commissioners who sat on Coastal Advisory Committee spoke up and encouraged Mr. Kaczynski to join us. And those people were Don Brown, Mike Blackwell, and Zen Wu. And they had nice things to say about, you will definitely learn something. And there's all kinds of topics on coastal issues that do have an overlap with planning, of course, with the local coastal program, etc. So I think, and Chris, you have to understand, we do have a sense of humor on Coastal Advisory. So after a little bit of browbeating, I think Chris will agree, he accepted the invitation to be their representative. I'm going to turn this over, Chris. I'm going to give you a few minutes to kindly enlighten us as to your background and how you think you can fit into our committee from Planning Commission, please. You're on the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Susan. I've been on the Planning Commission now. This is my 3rd year, and my background is in law. I'm an intellectual property attorney, engineer, and business owner in San Clemente. So I have a broad knowledge of business and law and a passion for the community. I'm looking forward to learning all about the coastal issues, and mostly just learning what this advisory committee does and what issues it faces. So
Wonderful.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
Well, we're happy to have you. Thank you very much. And should you at any time ever have any questions, you can contact Cynthia Mallett, our facilitator, our supervisor for environmental services for the city. And I think if Dave Riebensdorf is listening, Dave, I'm sure your door would be open should he have a question for you as well. Is that not so?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm always available for questions from anyone from the Coastal Advisory Committee. And
Thank
along
you.
with Cynthia as well.
Thank you, Dave. And of course, me too, if you have another question that you may not be able to reach Cynthia or Dave. So feel free, Chris, and welcome to the committee. We really appreciate your expertise here. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. I'm excited to be here.
All righty. With that, I'm sorry.
Jump in and let Chris know that Dave Riebensdorf is the utilities director, so he manages the water and sewer programs for the city of San Clemente, and environmental programs is under utilities. So he is my direct supervisor. So just wanted to give you that heads up, Chris, if you're wondering who Dave Riebenstorf is.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Yes, thank you, Cynthia. Dave, I apologize for not including that in your introduction. Thank you. That was a good catch, Cynthia. It's informative for our audience as well. Thank you. We are ready to move on to approval of minutes. And boy, don't we go far back. So we're looking at our December minutes. And does anybody have a comment? I'm not going to go through every single item and on these minutes, but if you've read your packet ahead of time, as Cynthia gave it to us way ahead of time, if you've read your packet and you have any questions whatsoever, any amendments, any changes, now's the time to tell me about the December minutes. And you can tell me by lighting up your microphone. So unmuting it so you could speak.
Yeah. Did we get resolution on the quorum issue? Do we know what a quorum is for this group?
Well,
I'll turn that over to Cynthia.
yeah, a quorum is going to be a majority out of the six seats, but we only have 5 seated now. And when you go back and look at the December meeting minutes, Gary, Jareen, and Susan were present. So John McGuigan has resigned and Jason Talley is no longer on there. So I think we should move forward with voting because usually if there's someone's been absent, they abstain because they weren't at that meeting.
Right.
I would think that would be a quorum for the people that are seated still for that meeting, for those set of meeting minutes.
Sounds
Cynthia,
good.
so in other words, you're saying 3 out of 5 is a quorum?
Yes, I would think so.
Okay. Well, is that, pardon me, Dave, is that for sure? Mr. Riebenstorf?
I'm not sure that I'm the expert on that, but the quorum would probably be whatever the total number of actual committee members that are, potentially appointed. And then as long as you have over 50% of that group. So I don't know if it's 6 or 7. So I think if it's 4 or more, that's what you would need, I think is my understanding.
Well, Eileen says 4 is still a quorum, but we don't have the members that were present. So John McGuigan and Jason Talley are no longer on this committee. So I think we should move forward with...
Jason Talley is replaced by Chris Kaczynski.
Yeah, but he can't vote because he wasn't at this meeting, right?
Right.
Correct.
But out of the 5 seats, there's 3, well, there was 6 back then. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But Eileen is saying that go ahead, vote for the minutes, and she's going to make note in the minutes, regarding the membership and who is present and not, and what the actual vote is. So I think you should just move forward. Because otherwise, these would just stand in perpetuity with not being approved, right?
I agree, because then they can tell us later if we need to do something to adjust it. But I move to approve the December 2019 minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Committee Member McLaughlin, seconded by Committee Member Campopiano. All in favor? Aye. That includes myself, Susan Ambrose, Jareen Campopiano, and Joe Zidron.
Yeah.
And-
Abstaining.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. I thought you said yes. And it was Gary who made the motion, so he is a aye, correct?
Right, correct.
So 3 of us are aye. Those are the 3 that were attending the meeting. Thank you. We're going to go on to the next set of minutes, which is January. And I'm going to ask you if you've read the minutes and gone through them and compared them to your notes and your recollection of the January meeting, if you were in attendance, to kindly give us a thought as if you have an amendment. And in that meeting, we have John McGuigan, Joe Zidron, Vice Chair Doreen Campopiano, and myself. So 3 of us are present today. Myself, Doreen, and Joe. I'm going to ask both of my fellow committee members if you have any amendments or modifications to the January minutes. Ms. Campopiano and Mr. Zidron. Joe, could you unmute, please?
Yeah, I do not have any amendments, so I would make a motion to approve the minutes as currently written for the January meeting.
Okay, let me address Doreen Campopiano. Do you have any comments or adjustments for the January meeting?
No.
Okay, so we are looking for a second to Mr. Zidron's motion. May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
The motion was made by Committee Member Zidron, seconded by Committee Member Campopiano. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Ms. Campopiano, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. So that is 3 ayes and 1 abstention. Thank you very much. Let's move on to the February meetings, please. Minutes, rather, please. And it is the same set of circumstances I request from you. If any of you have a comment, an amendment, an adjustment, or change to the minutes of February, now is the time to make your comments or corrections. If not, I will look for a motion. Let me tell you who was present. It was Gary McCacken, Mr. McWigan, Mr. Zidron, and myself. So of those present, 3 of us are present. Council member, yes, I'm council member, who used to be one of those. Committee member, Gary McCacken. Would you like to make a motion?
I make a motion to approve the February 13, 2020 Coastal Advisory Committee meeting minutes. I almost did pull papers. My wife wouldn't let me.
Is there a second on that?
Yeah, I will second that motion.
Motion made by Committee Member McCacken, seconded by Committee Member Zidron, and I'm going to ask for a vote. Gary McCacken,
Aye.
Mr. Zidron,
Aye.
myself, aye. That's a 3-0 vote. For you, Cynthia Mallett. Thank you very much. Recording.
And I abstain. I don't know if that needs to be recorded.
I thank you, and you were absent. Yes, thank you very much. Cynthia, when they're absent, does that have to be, is that recorded?
Yes,
Is it an abstention?
yes. Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you very much for clearing that up.
Sorry for this reflection.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, sorry, this light, I can't close it.
Oh, that's okay.
Yes, it'll go away. Okay.
It'll go away. Yes, it'll get darker. Okay, let's move on to public input. I'm going to go to Cynthia Mallett, our Supervisor for Environmental Services, who's also acting as our recording clerk today. Ms. Mallett, do you have any cards for us to read for public input?
I did not receive any emails for public input for the meeting.
All right. Well, I asked that question without opening it. I'm opening public input. I received, Cynthia, could you please repeat that to me?
Sure, we received no public comment for this meeting today.
Thank you. And seeing nothing else, since we are on Zoom, I am closing public input. Effective now. Let's move on to new business. Our first item, 7A, is environmental sustainability grant proposals. This is an item we're all familiar with. We're starting off with a verbal update by Cynthia Mallett, our environmental program supervisor. Cynthia, why don't you give us a brief summary of what's occurred in this last effort to recruit environmental grant applicants?
Okay, so just a brief overview for Chris Kaczynski about the environmental sustainability grant programs. The city offers up to $2,000 for nonprofit organizations and schools to apply for up to $2,000 for environmentally related projects, sustainability, education, different recycling, solid waste. And we have 2 grant periods each year, and grants for this fiscal year were due on June 15th, and we did not receive any proposals. Probably as a part of COVID-19, et cetera, So we did not receive any at this time. So that means that our next round would be due December 15th. And we will try and promote a little bit more to try and encourage some applications. We'll see how that goes. There's a total of $12,000 available for the entire year. Usually we get award about $6,000 for the first round and $6,000 for the second round, give or take. Since we won't have any applicants for this round, then in December there will be $12,000 available. And when I get information for the December round, which I could send out, I can probably get a flyer ready in October. If you folks are welcome to share with anybody who might be interested in applying. Okay?
Of course. Thank you very much, Cynthia. Does anybody have a comment about the environmental grant program? Oops, shoot, I forgot to turn my phone off. Let me mute myself. Please go forward. Cynthia, will you take over?
Sure. So, do you want me to move on to the next item? Phase 2 bird deterrent netting. Any other questions on that, on the grant? Chris, I'm not sure if you have any questions.
Hold on a second, please. Thank you. I apologize.
Hi, Cynthia. The only question I would have is, what type of environmental sustainability projects are you typically looking for?
It's interesting. We get a wide range of proposals. We've had coordination for beach cleanup events. Watershed Task Force has applied for monies to support the Earth Day event that's held down at Parque Del Mar. We've had proposals for pet waste bag dispensers. We've got proposals from Girl Scouts who actually were working on a organics diversion program at one of the middle schools. We have someone else who's maybe applying for or working on a project to install some native plants in certain sections. Some of them have installed native plants at the church and doing some irrigation upgrades. So it's just a variety. It's pretty interesting, the different variety of projects that we receive. So groups can come up with a project idea and submit their proposal. And then we have a committee that reviews that. That would include me, Dana McIntosh, who's with Solid Waste and Recycling, and Nikki Beach with our Water Conservation Program. So we review them initially, and if we want more information, we ask them for more information before we present to the Coastal Advisory Committee. And then the Coastal Advisory Committee reviews those, and they give their recommendations to the City Council. Actually, the recommendations go to the City Manager, for approval.
Wonderful. Thank you, Cynthia. And as a member of the public, how would someone go about applying for this? Where would they go?
On our environmental programs webpage, we do have information about the grant program, but I'm also happy to email the policy as well. I have a grant policy, the grant application, and I can always provide that to the CAC members if needed to share with others too.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Another thing to remember is my colleagues will remember that we gave Cynthia some additional tips last time to try to increase interest in applications, and that was perhaps advertising sooner so people had a lead, because when you're in a school district, those things take time to go through the process. You have to, not only as a teacher, you have to go to a principal, and sometimes the principals then have to follow up with an instructional head at the district office, etc., and sometimes even the superintendent. So early notice is really helpful, as well as just more posters, perhaps flyers sent out to schools could help, and increase various media. Does anybody else have anything to add? Those were the key points that I recall that we added. None forthcoming. I am going to close that agenda item if nobody has anything extra to add. Cynthia, thank you for your input. Chris, thank you for your question. Let's move on to 7B, please. Phase 2, bird deterrent netting project. Cynthia, will you give us the highlights of that, please? Maybe 3 minutes or so.
Sure. We have completed the Phase 2 pier bird deterrent netting project, which is the entire area underneath the restaurant of the pier. And there were hundreds of pigeons roosting under the pier through the pier bacteria source characterization study, a couple of studies this year study and one in 2016. Avian DNA was used to determine if they could be a source, and avian DNA was found consistently through all the samples collected that were analyzed for DNA. So we released a request for proposal. We received 2 proposals. We have Bird Solutions International installed the netting. And due to the amount of infrastructure underneath that pier, we wanted to make sure that there was going to be access. So we were provided a video to show how to open the netting to be able to access electrical, water lines, sewer lines, if there was any repairs needed, to be able to close that back up. Provided those to the restaurant manager and other contractors that might need that access there. And so that project cost $105,772, as you can see in your agenda report. And then prior to that, we did take advantage of a pier repair project that occurred in 2018. They were doing some major repairs to the pier pilings, etc. We wanted to also install netting on the boardwalk area, which is west of the restaurant, all the way out to Tower Zero, the lifeguard tower, because all that area underneath there is a potential sampling location for the bacteria TMDL. So in 2018, we took advantage of that opportunity because that section is over the ocean waters and very high up, and we were getting estimates of $250,000 just for scaffolding if they were going to access from underneath. So when the pier repair project came in, we took advantage of that contractor, and the same bird netting contractor installed the netting there and did a really good job. That project cost approximately $132,000 for that little section,
Okay.
So between the 2 of them, it was about $250,000 to net that section of the pier. And just as a heads up, when we get to the bacteria reports, or if you've looked at them, since May, June, and July, we've only had 1 exceedance each month at that monitoring location. So we really
noticed
that they were contributing to the bacteria exceedances. We want to try and get to no exceedances during dry weather, but this is a good sign that those bird deterrents are improving water quality directly underneath the pier.
So in other words, that mediation and that strategy has been successful.
Yes, it appears so.
Thus far.
Thus far.
That's wonderful news.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions for Cynthia Mallett on this issue?
Cynthia, what is the expected life of the netting?
The warranty on the netting is 10 years. And then there's hardware, but those are all steel, high-grade metal hangers, etc. So those should be able to last quite a long time. We knew that the environment down there was going to be pretty tough, but it is a 10-year warranty on the netting. And hopefully if you guys walk down there and you can look up there, it's really tight up against the understory of the pier. So it's kind of hard to see unless you're really looking for it. So.
Okay. And then has this also been submitted to the Regional Water Quality Control Board as a completed measure as part of the pure bacteria issue?
Well, we have not submitted that because the pure bacteria study is not done yet. That'll be finishing in December. So that will be mentioned in that report. But through my annual report that I have to report to the Regional Water Quality Control Board, we'll definitely mention that this management measure and best management practice was installed. That'll definitely be a part of our annual report. So they'll get information on that too at that time.
Okay.
Oh, great question, Doreen. Thank you very much. All right, and moving on. Any other questions on the issue right now? I see no microphones. So let us move on. Thank you, Cynthia, for a great report. Let's go on to item C, investigative and confirmatory sampling work plan for the pure bacteria source characterization study. Cynthia, again, you're on, and let's give you perhaps as long as 5 minutes this time, since we have a new member as well. And by the way, I do want to add, and Cynthia, I'm sure you don't mind, so if our new member has further questions, for example, about any of these projects, particularly the netting or pure bacteria, there's far more information than we have in our agenda tonight. May he contact you, or any of us could always contact you. You could link us up with where to go online with the city, correct?
Of course, yes, I can always answer questions and share information with the public about the project.
Well, I'm talking in particular, I appreciate that with the public, but I'm talking in particular about Mr. Kaczynski, our new member. If he wanted a little dossier, for example, on the Pure Bowl study that we've gotten in the past, could you put together a folder for him?
Yeah, I can answer any questions for him that he has, and send past reports, that type of thing.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia.
You're welcome, Chris.
All right. The floor is yours.
Okay, I trust that you've read this memo. As part of this pure bacteria source characterization study, we were using human, canine, and avian data in the shoreline at the monitoring station. But in the storm drain system, we also took samples and analyzed for human DNA. And in the 2 catch basins that are closest to the bottom of the pier bowl, right before they discharge into the ocean, we did get human DNA hits. So per the permit requirements, and we have a comprehensive human waste source study or plan that we have to implement, we need to go upstream into the storm drain system, do some additional sampling to try and find the source of the human DNA. So we approached City Council in July and asking for more money because we knew we were going to need more money. We didn't anticipate that we'd find the human DNA and didn't approve that in the contract for Wood Environment and Infrastructure Solutions, who's our consultant who's doing implementing the study. So July we got we got approval from City Council. And prior to that, there is a stakeholder advisory committee, a technical committee that is on the working on the pure bacteria study, as well as the coastal advisory committee. Both of those committees did approve this additional funding for the sampling that we're going to need to do. In that agenda report, you'll see a map there that shows where the 2 red stars are where the initial sampling was done, where the human DNA marker was found. There are 11 different storm drain catch basins upstream of there. If you're in that Pier Bowl watershed, there really aren't catch basins anywhere else except for where you see on this map, actually. So we're not going to sample all 11 of them because some of them are drained right next to each other. So we have decided to select 5 of those catch basins to sample, analyze for human DNA. And then if we find human hits from there, trying to find upstream from where that source could be. And we really don't have any idea. It could be a leaking lateral line. If it was a leaking lateral line, we would think that we would have consistently seen the DNA in those samples in the 2 catch basins down below. But the 2 catch basins down below were sampled multiple times, but not every time human DNA was not hit. So, you know, it just could have been something that got hosed off of a patio or a sidewalk, and when they sampled that day happened to be in there. We just really don't know. And so we have to do this investigative sampling, go upstream to the 5 catch basins, and then from there, if we find the source, we have to abate it, obviously. The main goal here is to protect public health down in the ocean where people swim, and humans can get sick from human waste, so that is our goal. We want to protect public health. Once we find and abate that source, then we have to do additional sampling called confirmatory sampling, and we have to do a lot more sampling in that phase in order to be able to confirm that we have abated that human source. So
what is happening right now with the consultant group in terms of performance for us? on this project?
Well, in regards for performance, they have not started this phase of the sampling. They're planning to start next week. We were getting all of their agreements in place and current insurance documents, that type of thing, but they are ready to mobilize next week. And so probably investigative sampling will be for about 6 weeks, probably mid-August to the end of September. Hopefully we abate that source, find it and abate it, and then move forward with confirmatory sampling for the next couple of months.
Okay.
And we should be able to come back with, we'll probably meet with the Stakeholder Advisory Committee in that time, which Doreen Campopiano is on that Stakeholder Advisory Committee. Thank you. And then should get a final report done in December. That's our schedule.
Thank you. And just to note that for Chris, our new member, we nominated, I nominated Ms. Campopiano for that position because of her background with the Environmental Protection Agency, et cetera. And she's a great representative on that committee. And of course, my colleagues unanimously agreed with me. So she sits on that committee. However, that is a public committee. So anybody can go to those committee meetings. I've gone to the ones that I've known about. And it's very interesting to see because the committee, Cynthia, could you give us a minute or two? I was going to tell myself, but I think you're a better person to tell people who is sitting on the committee, kind of people, maybe their jobs or something that really put this committee to a level of experts.
Okay, we have a representative from Orange County Public Works who manages the bacteria TMDL, which is total maximum daily load program. The city is required to meet bacteria TMDL by April 4th, 2021, which is coming up fast for dry weather. And then we also have a representative from South Orange County Wastewater Authority. We have another local citizen that sits on the committee. We have Denise Erkenough from Surfrider Foundation. And
Our scientist?
I would think a lot of them are scientists. Definitely Rita is.
Yes.
In SACWA, the representative from SACWA is a scientist. So
Amber Baylor from SACWA.
thank you.
Yes, that was our scientist. Yes, thank you, Mr. Riebenstorff.
Yep.
And I think that that they are a wonderful group. They are they're really into their fields, and they when Cynthia or the consultant points out a question or discusses an item, they really do all give an offering of what they think about it from their trained perspective. If you haven't gone to any of those meetings, and I speak to the public as well, and Chris as well, it's really, and my colleagues, it's really worth going just to listen to how this is discussed and what other elements are brought to the table that we may not have thought of, but from a health department or from a science perspective or a different type of higher level water quality perspective. It's very, very interesting and very, very helpful. Thank you for that information. There was one other question I had, and Mr. Riebenstorff, you may want to jump in on this one. Wasn't the city doing some underground camera work to determine if there was any leaks or anything like that might have contributed to some kind of contamination?
Yeah, we've had video inspections that have been done on the storm drain system and sewer lines. There was one area that I can think of in particular that required a liner, but there was no compelling evidence that showed that there was a significant leak on the sewer system. And the challenge always is with this, there's a potential in the sewer laterals, in the private sewer laterals from customers or residents that there may be some leaks there as well. And then kind of to note that other agencies have spent, and my understanding is upwards of millions of dollars to try and find human bacteria sources. So we kind of have to keep that in mind. At what point do we, if we can't find the source, do we continue chasing it? And do we consider, other alternatives such as, taking the urban runoff and putting it into the sewer system? Not ideal, but it's always an option.
Okay, thank you very much.
I do have one question, Susan.
Yes, please.
And this just for my understanding, why are the investigative samplings twice the cost of the confirmatory samplings?
Good question.
So investigative sampling, if you look at the agenda report is $21,574, and the confirmatory sampling is $28,120. So the confirmatory,
Yes, but that's
that's for 40
is,
right?
yeah, it's for half the samples.
Yes, so for the 18 samples, they are testing for for the investigative sampling, they are testing for 2 human DNA markers, HF183 and LACNO3. And for the confirmatory sampling, in order to save costs, you had to have a certain percent confidence, and so both the CAC and the Stakeholder Advisory Committee recommended using only one marker, HF183, and so that's why, even though there's more samples, it costs only a little bit more money, but we're only using the one marker.
You got it. Thank you.
And then, as well as the Orange County Public Works, were willing to pick up the cost for the confirmatory sampling. So you see that in your agenda report. So they are covering $28,120 in that cost, which is wonderful. Saves the city money. So this additional sampling will be $21,574.
Does that answer your question, Chris?
It does. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Ms. Campopiano, do you, as a member of the SAC committee, do you have any input or any other things that you'd like to share with us that's not been covered?
I think almost everything has been covered as far as, yeah, the sampling and whatnot. So.
Okay. Thank you very much. If there's no other comments or questions on this subject, let us move on to item 7D, and that is the ordinance number 1684, amending the municipal code chapters relating to city commissions and committees. Cynthia is giving us a very brief verbal report.
Yes,
My 5 minutes went to 10.
So you folks are familiar with this ordinance because it was supposed to begin July 1st. And that was going to reduce the number of members on the Coastal Advisory Committee to 5, no reps from Planning or Parks and Rec, and then meeting every other month, or if needed, an additional meeting. So that would have only been 6 meetings per year. So that the ordinance changed that frequency. But due to COVID-19 and the inability to interview potential candidates for Coastal Advisory Committee seats in June, maybe they interview in May or June. That didn't happen this year, so City Council decided just to hold off on this ordinance. So we're going to continue to meet as usual as previously if needed. Like, we can meet up to 12 times per year. We're not going to because we didn't have a July meeting, so could meet up to 11 times this year. And we still have the planning commission seat with Chris on board. So.
Okay. Thank you for that update. Any other questions on this issue? Let us move on to the Heal the Bay report. 7E. Thank you very much. Cynthia, again, you are on.
Okay, so Heal the Bay is a nonprofit organization that its main focus originally was in the Santa Monica Bay area. And they were really concerned many years ago, with the bacteria issues and the water quality in that bay. So over time, they have expanded and moved to different areas, and Heal the Bay actually now produces a beach report card, and that beach report card is in its 30th year. So this was the 30th year of that report card. And the report card, they use data that's public data. They don't collect they don't collect samples themselves and analyze data. They use publicly available data, like through the Orange County Healthcare Agency, to look at that bacteria data and then grade each beach based on that water quality data. So for 2019, when they have a beach we did have 5 let's highlight four or five actually beaches that met the honor roll. That means that the honor roll is that each of those water quality sampling sites at those beaches did not have any bacteria exceedances during wet or dry weather throughout the entire year. And so those beaches are Riviera, Avenida Calafia, Avenida Las Palmeras, and El Portal. So that's great. So, and they're usually, those beaches are usually consistently very, very good. We did have 2 sites on the beach bummer list this year, and the beach bummer list is graded solely on dry weather, and dry weather is from April 1st to October 31st every year. And that's called the AB 411 season. That's an assembly bill that was passed years ago that set that particular monitoring period, and then as well as that's most commonly when people go to the beach here in Southern California or even in all of California when it's warm out. So the data for the beach bummer list is only based on dry weather data, and the San Clemente Pier did land at number 9 on the beach bummer list, but we're fingers crossed that we'll not be on that beach bummer list. I don't think we will be in next year's report, which will be based on this summer's data. We really think that the pigeons were definitely contributing to those exceedances, and then we've got to find that human DNA marker or human DNA source in the Pier Bowl area. Now, Poche Beach did, I think it landed at number 2 on the beach bummer list. And that site has been challenging for many, many years. So that is going to be the other priority watershed that the Clean Ocean Program is going to be focusing its efforts on in the years to come, has been trying to focus its efforts. There is a lot of dry weather runoff. Now, that particular watershed does have a Blue Line Creek, which is through the U.S. Geological Survey. That means that there's a creek there year-round. For example, if there weren't any of us living in that watershed, there would still be water flowing through that creek. But due to development, there's non-stormwater runoff, could be coming from irrigation runoff, could be people hosing off driveways, could be mobile detailers washing vehicles and letting the water run down the storm drain, and they're not allowed to. So part of the Clean Ocean Program, we have started looking for focusing on irrigation runoff and have found some sites, and we're going to continue to move through that watershed and look for these irrigation runoff sources that could be contributing to the dry weather runoff. But down at the beach, at Poche Beach, there is the ultraviolet facility down there, and that was built in 2010. And what that does is it draws water from the channel. Pretty much the whole watershed is channelized for the most part. And it draws water from the main channel, runs it through a sand filter, which takes out larger debris, and then through the UV system, the ultraviolet system, which will zap the bacteria, and then it discharges back onto the beach. And if you've ever been to Poche Beach, you may see water coming out of a pipe that's near one of the houses there. And sometimes the water flows to the ocean, sometimes it might flow back into the pond. And in the past, too, there was hundreds of gulls that would land in that beach area. And there was thought that they were contributing to the bacteria exceedances. And that was a time when the gulls would land there. They would go to the landfill, which is at the headwaters of the watershed, and then come back and forth. The landfill did install or implement a falconry program, and they still have that going on to this day, where they fly falcons to keep the gulls away from the trash and the garbage when it's being deposited there. And then San Clemente did have a falconry program for many, many years. But after 2018, we didn't see a whole lot of gulls or birds landing in the area. So we have stopped the falconry program for now, but we are collecting gull DNA in the ocean shoreline. We collect samples when they do the bacteria TMDL sampling. They'll collect extra water to then be able to run through filters. They freeze those, and then they send them in a batch down to a lab. So I don't get that data on a regular basis, but we'll be able to look back at that data and see if goals are maybe contributing to some of the exceedances down there. So that's our other priority watershed, is trying to figure out where the bacteria sources are coming from. And it's a large watershed. It's challenging. There's a lot of algae that grows in the channel because it's channelized, and algae can harbor bacteria, and it could just grow in that algae and continue down. So it's going to be a challenging watershed to try and come into compliance at the shoreline.
We should probably give that the proper priority then in our key issues as well. But let me ask you this. There's a private club down there on the beach, the Shore Cliffs Beach Club. And to what extent do you talk to them about their waste management?
I don't talk to them at all about their waste management.
Okay, well, because they're publicly out on the beach in front, and they have events and parties and things of that nature. So I was just wondering, what compliance, do they have any rules of compliance to help with, to maintain clean beaches or maintain, or even the trash cans? Does the city provide them, or do they provide their own, or how does that work? How do you measure that when it's their own club, so to speak, right on the sand? Do you have a voice in maintaining their trash output?
We've never had any complaints of any debris or discharges from the beach club that I know of. So it's not an issue that I've ever had to talk to them about, and I think that they'd want to keep their beach area pretty pristine. So
I was just wondering, since the pond is always, pretty nefarious, if there was any kind of leakage underground from their facility. Now that area frequently, especially with storms, gets pretty beat up.
Yep, I don't have any information on that.
Mr. Riebenstorff, would you like to weigh in on this?
It is a private beach club, and my understanding is the beach is private in that area as well. I don't know what rights we potentially have, other than, if we believe that they are impairing the water quality, and we have any concerns about that, then, we could further look into it, and primarily would be a code enforcement issue.
Oh, I guess I was more curious about it. Would there be, because of the state of the pond, and would there be a case or an investigation as to see the quality of their plumbing underneath their facility to make sure they're not contributing to what's over there and what's happening with that pond, etc.? Because they're not too far away from it, as you know.
Yeah, I don't know how their sewer system functions at that facility. I don't know if we would have any concerns with that or not. We could look into it.
It seems like we would want to know. Because wouldn't that be interesting in the end if it was just something so easy right next door? Not that it probably will be, but it would be interesting to at least rule it in or rule it out as a potential source. Or not. Just an idea.
Okay. Yeah, we can.
Already.
I guess the question would be to Cynthia, I'm not aware of us getting significant human DNA hits in that area. I think we've done some bacteria sampling for human DNA, and I'm not aware of any that have been found there. So if the sewer was leaking, that would obviously be the potential source.
Yeah.
Well, in that particular area too, Mr. Riebenstorff, isn't there runoff from the golf course as well as some of the schools?
Yes.
And they frequently use fertilizers and weed killers and things of that nature to maintain those properties.
Yeah, and they use, that's another challenge, is the Shore Cliffs Golf Course uses recycled water. So you could get a false positive because there's human DNA in recycled water, but it would be inert since it's been treated with chlorine, but it would still show up in the sample. And that's where folks like Amber Baylor from SACWA are so critical in, assisting and navigating those challenges.
Yes, yes, I can see that. Thank you very much. Does anybody else have a comment?
I do.
Doreen, please.
Yeah, so one thing I thought that might be helpful to add to this, because I know, Cynthia, you talked a lot about the bird activity and the falconry program and how that was started and then subsequently stopped, but that's not really included in the summary. So I think that would be helpful because it really summarizes some of the things that we've done and why we think that birds aren't there anymore. So I think that would be a nice addition. And the other thing is, and also include the information you added about collecting gull DNA. And then did you say that, are they actually doing like bird counts where they're going and looking at, to observe whether there's bird activity there? Is that part of when they do the bacteria collection there? Are they looking at that?
Unfortunately, they are not making any observations. We are asking the agency that does collect the samples at the site to actually enter data into an app that the County of Orange had developed. But right now, that the agency that's sending the sampler there is not collecting that data, because that would be very, very important. That would be helpful. Even some data like, is the pond draining to the shoreline or not?
Right.
Birds are out there. What's the weather like? And just doing some general observations around there. And we've not been successful in getting them to support that, but we're on a campaign to try and get them to at least do that one site, because that is a priority watershed.
Okay. Yeah, I think that I would support that. And then as far as the DNA sampling that's been done at Poche, have they done the avian DNA in the water?
They're only using the gull DNA. That's a gull specific. Like under the pier, they use the general avian DNA. But because there's shoreline birds there. If you've ever gone to Poche, you'll see the shoreline birds running up and down. So, of course, they're okay to be there, but they could be contributing as well. But it was the gulls that were congregating so much in hundreds. I mean, I've seen pictures where there's hundreds of them there. But we haven't seen that. And we did have an intern early in the year that was going out to just double check, even last year, just to do some counts out there, just whenever they got an opportunity. We haven't seen the collection of hundreds of gulls down there. But we are getting some gull hits, but not on a regular frequency.
And then did you say that the gull DNA, are you sampling the ocean water or are you sampling the runoff?
Only the ocean water.
Only the ocean water. Has there been thought to doing the runoff?
More money.
More money.
So
that would always be the case, but I think that, Doreen, as your point is, maybe we should consider doing the runoff water as well to get us more pertinent information or additional information.
Right. I think, just from my perspective, Poche Beach has, like you said, Cynthia, it's been, a long-standing problem, and it doesn't seem like this UV facility is really doing what it needs to do to improve the water quality. So it almost seems like we need to think about a different approach with the city to get this, to approach this beach and to improve water quality here. So I just think that maybe we need to have some discussion about, additional work or thoughts of new improvements in this area.
yeah, and that UV facility, it actually is doing its job. It's just not capturing every drop of water. And then when there's a high tide event, it gets turned off because the high tide can breach the berm and get into the pond, and the salt water can negatively impact the whole facility. So that's a challenge. But we are collaborating with the County of Orange to do some actual sampling down in the lower part of the watershed. So actually, I think they're getting ready to mobilize next week to do some additional sampling. But we don't have avian or gull DNA. They're looking at the human DNA because that's our priority, is the human DNA that can make people sick directly. We haven't added the gull into there, but I can talk to them, either gull or ape. We know there's ducks. There's mallard ducks that live up and down there, and I've been down in that channel before in a lot of bird feces in the channel that's contributing as well.
Yeah.
So I'll actually bring that up with the area of investigation group and about maybe avian or gull data. I would think it'd be more of an avian thing because I think the gulls are predominantly focusing at the beach area, whereas there's other birds that might live upstream in the channel. So I'll bring that up to them. Okay.
Thank you.
What about the pond, though? They don't let us touch the pond.
What about the pond?
Yeah, I mean, the water that comes out of the UV plant goes into that pond.
Sometimes it does.
It looks like most of the time because there's always a berm that makes that like a natural pond.
So the pond, okay, so in Southern California, all the lagoons, wherever there's a creek outlet, you're either going to have a lagoon or a slough or some type of wetland. And over the years, we filled them in. Clearly where Poche Pond is now, or Poche is right now, where all the trailer parks, where the DMV is, all that area was probably a wetland at one time, okay? And so we filled it all in and channelized it. And all along the coast, you'll see even T Street, you'll see all of them, Riviera. The ocean waves naturally create a berm, and it makes, it holds that water inland, right? Doesn't let it drain. And that's pretty much throughout Southern California. So it's not the UV plant that's creating the berm. It is the natural processes of the ocean.
Right.
So some people have said, why don't you just let it drain all the time? Or you can't really let it drain all the time because then now you have bacteria-laden water going into the ocean shoreline, and we will not meet the bacteria TMDL requirements. So the berm actually helps to protect public health by not letting that water drain to the ocean on a regular basis. So when you go swimming at Poche Beach in the ocean shoreline, it's better protective of public health because that berm is actually there. But I know that pond is something not very pretty, and people have complained about it quite a bit.
Oh, the birds, I've seen birds sitting in the pond.
Yeah, there's one.
Sure they do.
Yeah.
But what if the effluent coming out of the UV plant is good, then it sits in that pond and the birds sit in there and it contaminates it again. Then it goes out to the ocean, contaminated.
Yeah.
That's what, you know.
Yeah, they wanted to, for the discharge pipe from the UV plant, they wanted to push it out further into the ocean so the water would not flow back into the pond. Because sometimes it does. It depends on where the berm builds up. The water could flow totally to the shoreline, it could flow totally to Poche Pond, or it could split. I've seen both of them. But in order to do that, you have to go through the California Coastal Commission. I don't think they were supportive of that, extending that pipe out further beyond that, because just with wave action, one, it could get damaged, and two, it could get exposed. It could be a trip hazard at certain times. Just the way the sand can form in that area can change on a daily basis. So they were not successful in getting that extension of that pipe. So at least it is treating. If it is going back into the pond, it's diluting the pond water with some clean water, right? So, but it'd be best if it was flowing out to the ocean. But I don't think there's any opportunity that we can change that at this point in time.
Everybody complains about Poche, but when the city closed their beaches, the state closed their beaches, and the county hadn't acted it, there was 1,000 people down at Poche. It was hilarious.
It was amazing,
So many
wasn't it?
people down there. There wasn't a square inch of sand, you know.
And they were rooting each other on for the
Yeah.
surf. The waves were really good down there.
Mhm.
That weekend, I remember seeing that when we were driving by. That's amazing. Well, I think we pointed out quite a bit of things about Poche that we need to pay attention to. And I think the work that Cynthia and Mr. Riebenstorff is doing thus far, and we can add. to
Madam
it.
Chair,
Yes.
may I add on? And
Please.
Cynthia, I don't know if you've mentioned this to the Coastal Advisory Committee before, but in regards to there may be a potential capital project where
great.
we can capture the water further upstream, and it would require a pump station, so there would no longer be impacts from high tide conditions. The water would then be pumped through sand filters and then diverted into the land outfall, which is adjacent to the beach there. And then that goes to Dana Point at San Juan Creek, and then goes about 2 miles out into the ocean. So then the waste stream from there could be discharged into the ocean. There's just been some preliminary evaluations that have been done by engineering. Cost estimates are roughly in the $3 million range, possibly higher. And then challenges on environmental side is, if you stop the flow, environmentally, would we be allowed to, allow that pond to dry up or not? So, there's a lot of issues, and I know staff, Cynthia's talked to the county about it as well to see if they have any interest in a project like that. And it's something that may want to consider as part of the Clean Ocean fee renewal as well.
Well, thank you for enlightening us, Mr. Riebensdorf. I appreciate that. I'm sure my colleagues do as well. Are there any follow-up questions for Mr. Riebensdorf on what he just shared with us?
I just have a quick question. Is that considered a dry weather diversion, or is it just a partial dry weather because you're not capturing all the water? You said it was an upstream.
Yeah, so it would capture all the water in the dry months. During wet weather periods in the winter, there's just too much water, so it would inundate that area. We couldn't develop a pump station large enough and put that into the ocean outfall. We need that for sewer wastewater, treated wastewater.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you very much. I'm sorry. Go ahead,
it
Cynthia.
would capture most of the dry weather runoff. There's Cascadita Channel, which travels behind the DMV there, and it's a little finger.
That comes all the way from Desheka, the runoff.
The Prima Desheka Kenyatta watershed, but it is Cascadita Creek is the tributary to the main channel. So we try and capture that water as well, but just upstream of where the high tide influence would be, because we don't want to capture the salt water and send it to through the outfall pipe. So.
And would the water go to the wastewater treatment plant before going to the outfall pipe, or it just goes straight out the system?
It would not get treated first. It would go through the sand filter in the UV plant. We would keep that to take out the larger solid stuff, but then it would not. It would just go into
Okay,
a separate pipe that goes straight to the outfall pipe. Yeah, it would not get treated.
I'm tracking. Okay.
Yeah, they've done some analysis. We would do it more water quality data on that water before we would actually be able to confirm to be able to do that. But we shouldn't have to treat it because it didn't have, it met all the water quality objectives for the land outfall.
Can I add on briefly? Part of the challenge with taking the water into the wastewater plant or sewer plant really is the TDS. The TDS is very high when it's been tested. I think it's in the 3,000 part per million range. And part of the issue is with creating recycled water for irrigation purposes. Our TDS is already high at 1,000 to 1,200 parts per million. And so if we added another waste stream at 3,000 parts per million, it would probably put us over the limit for discharge of recycled water, and the TDS would be too high and start to burn grass and our customers' plants. So we would certainly have a concern of taking that into the sewer system. So it would go into a 30-inch ductile iron pipe, the land outfall, which is, you can actually see the pipe. It's above ground on the ocean side of the bridge, and that's the city's, that's where the city's treated wastewater flows through there.
Thank you. Yeah, it's very, very helpful.
Thank you, Mr. Riebensdorf. Any other questions before we move on? We need to be conscious of our time, but this has been very enlightening. Thank you very much, Cynthia, and all of you who contributed to this discussion and question period. Very interesting, as well as Mr. Riebensdorf. Let's move on to the next category. And again, I'm calling on Cynthia. If you're going to have a sore throat tonight. Anyway, it's the Orange County Transportation Authority grant proposal for trash capture devices. And I think this really was recently before the City Council, was it not?
Yes, we took this before City Council at their July 17th meeting, asking them to adopt a resolution to accept funds from Orange County Transportation Authority if we are awarded the money, and commit to the 20% match that is required. So Orange County Transportation Authority has a grant program. It's called Measure M2. This they've got a variety of different opportunities, grant opportunities, but this is Project X Environmental Cleanup Program. And it's a competitive process for projects that improve water quality in Orange County from transportation-related pollution. So part of our, there is a trash provisions requirement for cities to install trash capture devices or of some kind, or do hand pickup of trash in storm drain catch basins that drain priority land use areas. And the priority land use areas are industrial, commercial, and high density residential. And so we have submitted to the Regional Water Quality Control Board a map that shows the different areas, and there's about almost 600 catch basins that need to be retrofitted with some type of trash capture device. And the trash capture device has to capture trash down to 5 millimeters in size, which is the size of a cigarette butt, basically the diameter. So that gives you perspective on that. So that's pretty small. And so this particular grant allows you to submit an application. And in your memo, you saw the area where we're proposing to install devices at 100 catch basins, and it's the Eastern Pico corridor area around Avenida Pico, Avenida La Plata, and Avenida Vista Hermosa. And so,
And you've attached this map?
yep, it's this map right here, and it's in there. So, yeah, there's 100 catch basins in there. We the project total, let me look at here, is the total project is actually $275,000 with a $55,000 match. Okay, so we're asking for $220,000 from the Orange County Transportation Authority. The board, Orange County Transportation Authority board, will hear all the recommendation from their staff on which projects to fund at a September meeting. So we should find out in September if we're going to be awarded the funds. And if so, if we are awarded, then we would hire a contractor to do the install and start probably in January of next year.
Has the city approved the 55,000 match in the
Yes.
budget?
Yes, we have that in our budget. Mm-hmm.
Is that under Clean Ocean fee, or is that in a reserve budget?
Well, it's in the Clean Ocean program under the Capital Improvement Program.
Oh, okay.
We anticipated that we're going to chip away at this. We have 10 years to comply till 2030. So we are including some money each year for install. So we had the money this year for the match.
Okay, great.
And probably subsequent years as well.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions on this subject for Cynthia Mallett or Mr. Riebensdorf? Dave, I hope you don't mind I threw your name in there at the last minute. No questions?
If there's no questions, might I just add, I'd just like to give kudos to Cynthia. She really took the lead and did all of the legwork to make this happen. So hopefully it gets approved, and I just want to thank her for her efforts.
Well, we agree. We thank her too for her efforts on this project in particular. Thank you, Dave, for mentioning that. And we will note that in the record, and it'll be, as Cynthia says, perpetually on YouTube.
In perpetuity.
Had to do it. Okay. Anyway, we will move on to the, oh boy, get ready, the Coastal Advisory Committee work plan. So I'm going to ask you this, just because I haven't done one of these before, and I don't know what your kidneys are like. It's 7:45. Does anybody need to take a 5-minute break for any reason? If so, we could just have a general 5-minute break. You could stretch your legs, get a drink of water, or whatever you needed to do. Otherwise, we can continue straight on right now. Do I have, why don't you put your microphone on and tell me if you need to take a break?
Do we have an estimated amount of time that it's going to take to work on the work plan? Are we?
I think that we should be able, I mean, we're intelligent people. We need to really focus. You know, I let Cynthia have extra time, and in fact, I asked her to take the time because we have a new member, and she graciously concurred with me. Well, I don't know if she concurred with me, but she graciously did it. But, and I think that was helpful for our new member and a good refresher for us and for Mr. Riebensdorf to see how we operate here. And there's a great level of cooperation. And you can see, Mr. Riebensdorf, there's a lot of discussion and feedback and good questions that are asked. And we do put Cynthia under the scope at various times because she knows more than we do on certain issues. So back to your question, Mr. Zidron. I don't know. I think we can get through that maybe even less than an hour if we're focused. We should not be wandering off. However, it's really important that we take the time to look at our prior work plan, look what's written down, and this is what we're planning to do. So, but however, it's not the end of the run today. This is input, this is review, this is open for your comments, your questions. There are blank sheets that all of us got in our packet in case we want to add other key issues or projects. And I encourage you, now's the time to speak up, to float it by us. So we have time to even, Cynthia, perhaps even if we don't get to the time tonight, there's the 30 days to our next meeting. Cynthia can establish a timeline where we can think about it, as well as working on it tonight. We can stop if we're completely full of done with the pages we have, which are 4 pages. There's only 8 items in there. However, we're doing some comparing, we're doing some thinking and listening, but there's other subjects you could bring up and then contribute comments to Cynthia during this time period in between our next meeting. And Cynthia, I think you and I talked about, then you would compile the list of those comments if they were collective around certain issues and let us know for our next meeting if we needed to add things or if we're wanting to add things.
Yeah, if the members want to, I don't know that I provided you a blank template, but you can see the format there. If you feel like there needs to be more.
Well, we have blank forms, is which I meant to say. I apologize. But I think that Joanne Bade sent us a blank template, or her assistant Lori did. So you can actually type on that and enter it.
Yeah,
But,
I guess my input would be, let's you know, if folks have major issues and things like that, let's discuss them tonight. But I don't think, as you mentioned, we still have till next month to finalize it. So maybe some time for folks is a good idea versus, you know, trying to solve every single problem tonight.
Well, absolutely, and I don't want to have a 9:30 meeting or anything like that either. We had originally agreed that we'd try to stop at 2 hours. I think right now it's about, what did I say, 7:45. So I'm thinking we might go till 9 tonight because we have the rest of the business to cover. So why don't we get a start on it right now? Then I don't see anybody saying they want to take a break. Let's go ahead and pull out the pages that Cynthia gave us, and it looks like it says the annual work plan, fiscal year 2020 to /21. Got this pastel cover, if you're all looking at it. You should have a paper that looks like this in front of you. And if so, let's go ahead and start directly on the top. Now, Cynthia, I'm not going to give you a lot of talking time right now, but you please feel free to jump in when I'm talking if you don't mind. So right now, the project name for the first one, Cynthia went through the work plan and pulled out the things that were action items. She advised me that these had to be action items for this year, not past history, and that these should be unique projects in addition to the regular things we usually do as a Coastal Advisory Committee. So, for example, beyond all of the bacteria reports beyond what we do with the Clean Ocean Fee in the past. Beyond anything that we usually cover on a routine level. So these are specific things that are being added to our list of things to do. So look at these in this framework. Some of them are continuing because we're adding to them. So let's just go right now to the first one. The project is a pure bacteria source characterization study. And she's referred you, as you can see, to the page and the item number that we put on our original work plan. So if you want to go to that page, it's page 3, item 2 and 3. This is how she formulated. This is the information she used to formulate her draft, just to give us an idea of one of these, for the purpose, the goal, and the deliverable, along with the cost of the project, the timeline, and the resources needed, whether this is a new or continued or unfinished project. So the basic thing that we need to know right now is the project. So the project name, and I say to you that Cynthia and I probably spent a cumulative 3 or 4 days on this, and maybe equating 8 hours or more on this, debating about what it started out as to where it is now, and trying to fine-tune this to be more specific. So if look at the purpose on this one, and why don't you read it to yourself, so I don't, unless you want me to read everything out loud. I think you take a look at it, and does this, I'm looking at purpose as an overall picture. What's the purpose of the pure bacteria source characterization study? So does this response and purpose serve that purpose for you? Please take a look at it. And if you have a question about it, a yes or a no, please put your mic on and speak. If I don't hear from you, I'm going to make the assumption that you agree with it, and we will move on. Now, if you think it needs more detail, it needs more words, it needs more explanation, you may offer that. We might not agree because you see how much space we have. However, we can use additional pages. So I want you to be open and free of what you're thinking. Remember, we're focusing on this is for CAC. This is not for Cynthia's job. This is for CAC and our role in this. Cynthia will be go ahead, Cynthia.
Yeah, and I know you only received this 2 days ago, so it's not a lot. It's a lot of information to review in a short time frame. And I apologize that we didn't get this out to you sooner. But they have to be unique items. City Council wants to see different unique items. I don't have all the data finished in some of these. For example, costs under resources needed. There's not some of them I do have some costs. Some I need to confirm and get in with other people. I'm wondering if even just going through each of the projects and seeing if
that's what we're trying to do. Yeah,
would want to do. So
yes,
that's where I can get more information before the next meeting to send to you. And if you have comments, you can send to me as well, like Susan had mentioned. So that by the September meeting, we can hopefully get a final product to approve.
So thank you, Cynthia. So let's go back to the purpose, please. Take a look at that. And right now, is that suitable for you? Our goal was to be part of, our purpose rather, was to be part of and at the table when decisions are being made about the pure bacteria source characteristic study. We have over the years, if you don't recall, our new member won't, of course, but those of us who've been on the committee for some time, and Gary as well, we've always suggested, and we've always made comments about the bacteria counts and how can we make them more current? And what about why aren't we testing there? And what about the main station? And what about this? And like just in 2015, the testing site under the pier came alive, and boy did that make a difference. So all of these things are critical when we're required to look at the bacteria counts and see the reasons. Now we have a lot more reasons why something might be occurring that's an exceedance than we knew before. But we through the years we have thrown questions. As you can see, by the time Cynthia got on board, there's a far bigger key to reading legend key, if you will, to reading the bacterial report than there used to be. So that said, this is ensuring that we're at the table to collaborate with other specialists brought in that I asked Cynthia to outline in the last comments that she made, the scientists, the health experts, et cetera, and to get to the source of what's causing the bacteria exceedances. That's what we want to know. That's the purpose of this whole study. We want to know what's causing them. If we know what's causing them, we can fix them. Hence, we go on to the goal. So we get the study results. We provide feedback on the study work plan to identify the bacterial sources. The next one is to recommend appropriate and effective strategies and BMPs, best management practices, to eliminate the source. Well, we don't usually do BMPs. I had suggested to Cynthia, and I'm suggesting to you right now, to modify that statement to say, recommend appropriate and effective strategies and recommendations to eliminate the sources of polluting bacteria or bacteria pollutants. And that was period. And make those recommendations. So make the recommendations ends there, but it carries over then to the deliverable, where the deliverable would be that the city staff and consultant would develop a draft plan to implement the data, the data analysis and the CAC recommendations and consultant recommendations into BMPs to eliminate the sources of bacteria. So that's really the role, in my view, of management, is to make the best management practices. We come up with the strategies and the recommendations to them. They review whether they're realistic, can be done, do they have the source resources to do them, etc. And while it may seem like semantics to you, it really is different parties doing different things. So that's my recommendation for this particular element of pure bacteria source characterization study. Does anybody have a question about what I'm recommending and what Cynthia is recommending? Also, parts of her things are in here. Or do you want to make changes? If you agree with me, please let me know right now so we can move on to the next one. But if you've got concerns or questions or modifications, speak now, please.
Yeah, so from my perspective, I agree, Susan, as far as the line that says recommend appropriate and effective strategies and BMPs to eliminate the sources. I agree that I don't think our committee is going to be recommending those. I think we're going to be reviewing the consultant reports. So maybe change recommend to review the identified, strategies and BMP. And then the other thing I was, since we do know that there has been identified a human and avian source of the of pollution, do we want to add the word to identify the human and avian sources to the project purpose, since that's a lot of what's driving the project?
The human factor is a lot what's driving the project. I would accept that. So are you saying you approve of using BMPs rather than recommendations, and for them to do a draft and they come up with the best management policies and procedures?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to be doing that. I was just saying change that word to review.
Oh, yeah.
Because we're reviewing whatever the consultant in the city, the document. So.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, I can put in front review recommended effective strategies and BMPs to eliminate the sources.
No, we don't want, right now I'm recommending we don't use BMPs, and Jareen has just agreed with me.
No, I agree. I think we should leave BMPs in. It's just an industry standard term. That's what the regulators are going to look for and use. That's my personal opinion, is we keep BMPs in. I think Jareen was suggesting keeping it in as well.
Yeah, I don't think we actually need to remove BMPs as long as we're saying we're not ourselves recommending them, right? Or coming up with them. I think as long as it says.
How does that sentence read then? If we're not writing them, we're providing recommendations and strategies or somebody else to write the BMPs or implement the BMPs?
So this is what I have.
Wait, hold on. I was asking Doreen, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Well, I think when you add the word review, recommended appropriate and effective strategies and BMPs, which is what we expect will be in the report, then that would resolve the issue that at least I had personally with BMPs, because my issue with BMPs was just that we're personally not going to be I'm not going to come up with, we should be doing this BMP at the pier. I mean, that's for the technical consultants to do, not us.
I agree with you. I accept that. I think so too. Cynthia, I interrupted you. Did you have a comment on that? You're
Sorry?
good now?
yes, you want me to read back what I have here?
Hold on. Does anybody else have a comment before Cynthia reads? I don't see a mic. So Cynthia, yes, please. Thank you.
So I've revised it to say review recommended appropriate and effective strategies and best management practices to eliminate the sources.
I'm comfortable with that. Doreen, what do you think?
I gave the thumbs up. I think that sounds good to me.
It's clear and concise. Mr. Zidron.
I'm good with it, thank you.
Mr. McClacken.
He disappeared.
Okay. Chris, do you want to throw a voice in here?
I seem to be a little bit out of my element on these work items, but I'm supportive of what you've been talking about.
Okay. Well, I think that's consensus, Cynthia. Please print that in, and so bring that back to us as a finished, and we can, if we need to change our mind next time, we will, but right now that's working for us. And then the deliverable on that item, provide recommendations to city staff and city council when appropriate. I deleted when appropriate because, frankly, our job is to report to the city council whenever we want to. And of course, we wouldn't do anything with disorder at any rate. So I just think it's not needed when appropriate.
I agree. It seems extraneous.
Okay. I deleted.
Any other comments? None?
Joe disappeared.
Joe, did you leave us?
He's listening.
No, I'm here. I'm sorry. My wife had to come into the room with my son to get something.
Oh, okay.
And I hope you don't mind. I'm starting to eat my dinner.
Oh, no, feel free. So, Joe, are you okay with deleting the unnecessary when appropriate?
Sounds good. Yes.
All right. So just delete those two words. Cynthia, do you want to read that deliverable then, please, for us?
Provide recommendations to city staff and city council.
Okay, fine. We're all in agreement on that? Turn on your microphone if you are not. Okay. I don't think I need to take a one-by-one vote. I think that's pretty clear. We ready to move on to, and on this note, Cynthia, let me ask you your thoughts here. I don't know that we need to go through the estimated cost, timeline, resources. Is this a new project? That's really more the information that you fill in, is that correct?
Yeah, for this one, it is.
Okay.
And I'll get that estimated project. I'll get that filled in before you see the next version.
Okay, sure. Let's move on to the next one. Heal the Bay, Nowcast modeling system for predicting water quality at San Clemente beaches. So for those of you who are doing the match with our work plan, that's page 4, item 4. And the goal here, we changed it to pursue, and I'm wondering now whether the same is the truth. But instead of pursue, say evaluate whether this model is a reliable system for predicting water quality at San Clemente beaches. That's really the purpose. Cynthia wanted to focus specifically on Heal the Bay, hence that's why we said this model. And the goal then is, in order to determine whether it's reliable, we need to do research, because you can't just, you have to study it, you have to know. Cynthia doesn't know all of those answers. I don't know all those answers. Maybe some of you do. But at any rate, so the goal is to research the accuracy of this model by comparing the beach grade with indicator bacteria data collected through the United Beach Water Quality Monitoring Group, which is a group of 3 main companies that each give data, water sample, water quality data testing data rather, to Heal the Bay, for Heal the Bay to insert in their model to then make statements about or characterizations of accuracy of water quality at various beaches. So hence, that's where the comparison comes in. So that is the goal. And then another part of that goal is to determine if the model is accurate and useful and can be, in fact, expanded to other San Clemente beaches. So I like the language of the way I read it. I added evaluate whether rather than pursue. And I think the rest stands on its own, except on the bottom, I inserted the word San Clemente. There was also a question I put to Cynthia about, Cynthia had shared that Heal the Bay was doing some testing or some looking at a location north of the pier and to perhaps get into a pilot project. So I thought maybe that would be a good idea if they're already starting to do that. And because of Pochi and the bummer list or the pier in the bummer list, and because we have some on the honor roll and then we have some in the middle, why not take that beach and one of our honor roll beaches and have them in this pilot project, and maybe even a third that's in the middle, and do a pilot project. That would be a very thorough assessment of whether this testing process is reliable. Don't you agree? One's in the bottom, one's in the middle, and one's at the top. And they're all in San Clemente. We can choose the ones we want to use. So that is an option. Maybe down the road, maybe it wouldn't be this year. Maybe it would be looking forward. But something to be able to make these evaluations and analyses reliable, to determine whether they're reliable or not to use in San Clemente.
Yeah, I guess my input is I'm good with your word change for evaluate. The Heal the Bay presentation, as I recall it, I personally, I don't know that I support spending money to hire a consultant to validate the model from Heal the Bay.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's great if we're interested in it and want to get Heal the Bay on board to do a pilot project, but the reality is they can do it regardless of whether we want them to or not.
That's
so
right.
If we validate their model and we say your model doesn't work for us, then they can still post it, right? Because they're using publicly available information.
Yeah.
OC. So I think, if,
well, I didn't think we'd have to hire a consultant. I thought we could use theirs, and it might be a good project. It might be a good grant opportunity. But I didn't. But I agree with you. We don't want to pay for a consultant to do that. It's not in the budget anyway.
Right.
But I like the pilot idea.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with Joe in the fact that, as far as us researching the accuracy of the model compared to beach, our beach data, bacteria data, are one of us actually going to go out and do that? I don't think that's really in our purview or really our role that we'd be able to do that sort of thing. So to me, it would be more like where we could partner with them and say, hey, Heal the Bay, why don't you do these 3? We're really interested in these 3 beaches, and then have them, run the model and then see what they come up with. And maybe we could have, a link to it on our website, or, promote if we like what they come up with, and maybe that could be our deliverable.
I think that's a good point too, but what if we don't like what they come up with? They'll still probably post it anyway if they're involved in doing the pilot. So we have to be prepared for the pluses and the minuses. But that's true with any kind of situation like this. A perfectly obvious one is the results we got with our study, consultants got with the Pier right now. Who knew that they would find human factors?
Yeah, but that said, I think it's a cool thing to keep on. It was a cool technology when they presented it to us, right? The idea being that they attempt to fill in the gaps between when samples are taken and use predictive modeling and tidal conditions to create
Yes.
You know, on Friday is the water safe to go in. So I think it's cool to continue to pursue it. I don't know that we need to spend costs as a city towards validating the technology of it.
Okay, so you agree with the purpose, evaluate whether this model is reliable, etc.,
Sure do.
but not with research the accuracy, because that would be a consultant doing that. We wouldn't be doing that unless, actually, we could as a committee, if people wanted to make a subcommittee, two people could work together and do some research on it and bring it back to the committee and say, here's what we found thus far. So it's not a throwaway idea.
I definitely don't think it's a throwaway. I think potentially maybe we could reach out to another city that Heal the Bay is doing this predictive modeling. Find out, are citizens using it? Is it working? Has there been concerns where the Heal the Bay predictive model was inaccurate? It predicted an exceedance. They actually happened to go out and sample it, and there wasn't an exceedance, and people stayed away from the water, or something like that. I think we could do more, like qualitative type research around whether this has been effective in other places, perhaps. But I don't know.
I think that's a great idea, Joe. So we can change that language of research to, what language would you want to use to go to that would involve other cities, etc.?
Maybe just explore the effectiveness of the model in other areas in terms of its ability to public education or enhance public health or public safety of the beach, something like that. Just we're looking at, ultimately what we're trying to do is convey meaningful information to the public so they can make informed decisions about whether to recreate in the water or not. And I think what we should be doing is saying, has that worked? Has this system been an effective tool to help inform the public about making those decisions? And again, I think the answer to that is more going to be, qualitative, just talking to other cities, talking to other users or whatever, versus, waiting for them to do a model and then us going out and sampling and determining if their predictive modeling is correct. I just don't
So
see
we would do the comparison of reliability depending on the results that other cities got with their testings, etc. Their use of the program, in other words.
Right. I potentially, I don't know. Yeah.
I was also going to say, part of the purpose is us to provide more of a real time,
Yes.
of water quality, because that's largely the benefit of having this type of Heal the Bay system in place, is that, right now we have sort of a reactive system, is that we do the sample, it takes days to get, and so by the time you get it, the water quality is probably fine or it's much better. Whereas at least this has a predictive element, and it could be a benefit to our citizens because it would say, hey, based on these conditions, we think the ocean is going to be like this. And then they can make better informed decisions to, whether to recreate in the water or not. So
How would you
I think
include
that should be in there.
I think so too. How would you include that in purpose? Could you give us some text, please?
I have to think about.
I typed up something.
Okay.
Provide real-time water quality data for the public for people going to the beach that day. I can change that up, but it's really provide real-time water quality data.
Predictive data, right?
Yeah.
It's not real.
And reporting data, yes. At lay level, so people understand. Can they go swimming in the beach today?
And just to let you know, Heal the Bay is using this model at one of our beaches, and that is the Marine Tower, 450 feet north of the pier. They just started using it a month ago. I will send you a link to their website.
Interesting. Because we don't sample there, right? So we can't validate.
That we do.
Right.
Do we sample 450 feet out from the marine safety?
North.
Okay. I see.
Right.
I see. I thought you were saying they were
there's a storm drain pipe there, so we have to sample where every storm drain.
Yeah. Gotcha. Great. Cool.
Yeah.
That's good.
Well, that's why I said that would be great to do a pilot, because they're doing it anyway.
Right.
So is that pier up?
Yes. No, pier up is
Pier
over
down.
100 feet
Okay.
up coast. 450 feet, let me see.
That's like Mariposa, maybe even
It's
further.
close to Mariposa.
Marine Tower. Think of a football field and a half.
Oh, yeah, okay,
If you
okay,
go from here and go up about a football field and a half, you'd be at the Marine Tower.
okay. That's past, is by Linda Lane, no, past Linda Lane.
No, it is it is down coast from the Marine Tower. The Marine building.
Oh, okay, oh.
Here,
Oh,
and-
yes. Oh, yes, yes, it
And let me
is,
see.
okay. I was going the wrong direction.
I'll look at our bacteria report, and that is going to be, site S19. It says 450 feet north of the pier. So it's on there. It's one of our regular TMDL sampling locations. Yeah. So they're already doing it. But I like your idea of, just looking at it and see if it's predictive. And if we have any exceedances and we don't, and they keep giving it an A grade, they will grade it, A, B, C, D, E, or F, just like their report card.
Okay.
So.
Let me just.
We see about,
Go
can
ahead,
we
I'm sorry.
link that to on our website, the Heal the Bay work, so that our citizens have
Yep.
an opportunity to go there?
Oh,
'Cause I don't
great
think
idea.
anyone even knows that they're doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they just started a month ago. I was a little hesitant. They were looking at maybe picking one of our, like the pier, but you have to have a lot of water quality data in the predictive modeling. And I think the pier didn't have enough water quality data for many, many years, because those models need a lot of data if they're going to be somewhat accurate. So I was pushing to say no to the pier, knowing that we were going to be putting in some BMPs and there's going to be a lot of changes, so I didn't really want them to use that site. So at least 450 feet north of the pier, that rarely exceeds at all. So we'll see how it looks. And they base the information, like Joe said, on tide, weather, rain, waves, ocean currents, temperature, that type of thing.
Right. So I guess in light of the context that you provided, that they're already doing the modeling, it looks better what's provided there.
Yes.
That makes more sense.
Yes. Okay, Cynthia, would you give us a read, please? Starting with purpose?
The whole thing? Okay.
No, just from Heal the Bay. We already did number 1. Let's do the second.
Right. Okay, purpose. Evaluate if this model is a reliable system for predicting water quality at San Clemente beaches. Provide real-time predictive water quality data for people going to the beach that day. I'll change that up.
Yeah, that sounds a little elementary.
Right now, just got to move on. The goal.
Doreen, do you have a corrective sentence that would help right now to fill that in?
I don't right now, but
Okay. All right.
I could keep thinking.
Okay. Alrighty, and then so would you read the goal again, please?
Yes. Research the accuracy of this model by comparing the beach grade with indicator bacteria data collected through the Unified Beach Water Quality Monitoring Group. Determine if model is accurate, useful, and can be expanded to other San Clemente beaches.
I'm fine with that. How about anybody else? Joe?
Yeah, I'm way good with it now that I know that they're actually doing it. So again, it all makes sense. I think it's good. Yeah, for sure. I don't know if we need a consultant still, but I like the language in that whole top part.
Okay, well, if we don't have a consultant to do this, I can't make the staff time to do this.
No, but we could look at it the way you indicated, Joe. We could, as a subcommittee, a couple of us could get together with other cities, research other cities, or maybe research is throwing this into the scientific mode, or check with other cities to see what they're doing. We can go online and their websites, find out what they're doing. Might be as easy to do as that, to a certain level. At least to find out what other cities are doing.
No, I guess now in rethinking it, I understand, Cynthia, what you're saying, right? So somebody's going to have to go back, measure what the model predicted, and then look at what the results are. And
yes.
Yeah, I get it. I understand it. I mean, obviously we can do this anecdotally and say, hey, let's look back at what the thing said, and it was either more right than it was wrong. But yeah, if you want to conclude,
You have to have confirmatory things that validate it.
right. I still don't know if it's worth it as a city to spend money to hire a consultant to do that, but I understand why, if this was the goal, if this was the deliverable you wanted, you would need to hire a consultant to do it.
Well, I offered the same response to you that I did to Cynthia when she said we don't have the money. Right now, we're not here to talk about the money. Cynthia can apply that later. We're talking about what needs to be done in coastal advisory and what is feasible that we can do for the year. So is this feasible even? Can we do part of this? Can we get our environmental services behind this as well, etc.? That's what we're looking at. Really, we're not deciding the money. The question is up to the city council regarding money. They want to know if or if not it's in the budget or not. And that's Cynthia's job to let us know.
Well,
She's letting us know that
it's not in the budget. Yeah.
but that doesn't mean we can't have it in there for the city council to decide whether they want to do that or not.
Okay, what about this for the goal? So research whether the model results are effective in improving like citizen decision making, right? Because I mean that's what we're trying to do, right? I mean I feel like if we feel like the model really helps our citizens or helps people who are going to the beach, then it would be something we would want to promote and use.
Oh, but that's very subjective. How can you Sally might think it's helping her family, but Johnny might not. He might not even care what difference that makes. He's going to go swimming anyway, or scuba diving, or surfing anyway. That's just my instant response to that. Does anybody else? But I thought you were going to give. I thought that you were going to give extra comments to Cynthia about the timing, how to rewrite the timing. But I thought that this one, the weather, explore weather, was already okay. We can have another statement there about, I don't know how you're going to evaluate whether the public has more knowledge about it or not. And I think the public would be more informed if the city had the information to give to the public. The city would be the information giver, depositor. Just like now, you have a surf report, or you have a weather report, or you have whether the water quality is safe enough for you to swim in. That comes from various other sources rather than independent people.
but I think the suggestion of having a link to the Nowcast website
Yes, I think that's really important.
Could give you this timely information that Joreen is mentioning, and it wouldn't be any cost to the city. If you want this in your work plan, it's going to probably maybe get more support from city council if there's no cost to it. So I've got research if model is effective at providing the public with timely beach water quality data. But I agree with Susan on how do you research or assess that information? How would you know, and without a survey, or do people appreciate the fact that they can log on and see if this particular beach is protective of water quality, the day that they're going to the beach or the day before?
Couldn't you assess it by the number of hits? If people are actually visiting the website or using the link, I mean that shows interest, at least in the information.
Well, that shows interest, but you don't know if it means anything to them. It's hard to evaluate that subjectivity.
Well, I could see
we could. I'm sorry, Cynthia. Just let me finish that thought, please. What about, Doreen? You're trying to get to the level of interest would indicate the community members' use. So increased use could correlate to it being an effective tool, something of that nature, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm just trying to resolve the issue where I don't think we want to be asking for consultants to do the work And I think that's a lot to put on us to try to form a subcommittee and do our own analysis. So
Okay.
I'm trying to think of another way around this that we could.
Okay. Okay, so okay, yes, whatever we can think of that would make it objective rather than subjective. The half of what you're saying is very objective, but the measuring part is subjective thus far. If you had another way to measure other than hits, but I'm not a statistician, so I don't know. Mr. Rievendorf, can you help us out on this?
Well, I've got a suggestion.
Okay.
That it could just be the click-through data. One, to see if the public is even using it. If they see it on our website and then they click through to the Nowcast model, I can check with IT to see if they can find out how many people looked at it and then clicked on the Nowcast website to then go, or clicked on the link to go to the Nowcast website to see if people are actually even using it.
Okay, and what about at the end of the survey or at the end of when you get data? I recall seeing these buttons. Was this information helpful to you? Yes or no? How about something simple as that? Would that be a good measure of whether somebody's profiting by that information? Gary?
I don't know.
Your light's on. Do you have something to offer?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know how you would get that if they clicked on from our website over to Nowcast. Now they're on their website, and they'd almost have to have the survey there. Otherwise, they'd have to come back to the city website to see if it was for the survey.
Well, you could ask a question after you review the data. Please return to the site and answer this question. Was this service valuable to you?
I can see if that's possible through IT.
Or your IT people would think of better language than I'm using right now that would be more data collected. Any comments?
Couldn't the goal just be that we're increasing the available tools that the public can use to assess water quality?
Oh, yeah.
And just by us adding that on, I think we're providing a benefit to the community.
Okay, and then that way we can measure hits. Right? How many people are using it because we're providing it. Find out how many people are actually using it. I would agree to that. Joe?
I thought it was a good solution. I think we've walked down a hole here. I think we all agree that this is a good thing to do. I think we're struggling with how we quantify the success of this particular thing we're trying to do.
Yes.
So I liked what Joreen said. I think it gets us out of this hole and
I do too.
it kicks the can down the road a little bit in terms of how we quantify success or not on this particular item.
Yeah. So, Cynthia, Joreen, could you repeat that back for Cynthia's note-taking, please? Cynthia, if you don't mind.
If I can remember what I just said.
I have that
think,
problem too.
I think I said something about increasing the number of tools
Yes.
that
The
the
public.
public has access to evaluate water quality,
Yeah.
beach water quality.
Beach water quality.
Okay, good. Okay, beach water quality. And again, we don't have to have this finalized tonight. We can always, I can make changes easily next week and get it sent back out to you folks next week, so you have plenty of time to review and maybe massage some of the language as well.
Yeah, and when you do that, would you leave the original that was there that Joreen said, and then if you change something, add that underneath it or add it in a different color or something?
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to go with that statement right now to carry it forward. And then if we have to add something else to it, we can agree to do that in September.
Okay.
Are we in agreement with that? I don't hear any disagreement. So I'm going to, let's move on then. So the deliverable then is going to be some kind of report of, at a minimum, quantity of hits. Cynthia?
What?
The deliverable would be
Okay.
some kind of monthly report of the number of hits at a minimum, right? Maybe at the maximum, maybe that's all we need to know.
Yeah, I
How
don't
many
know. If
people,
it'll
how
be-
many community members are using it, or anybody in the public is using it.
I don't know that it'll be a monthly report, but so number of,
But just a matter of,
I call it click-through numbers, click-through rate, which is when somebody is on one site and they click on a link to another site, it's called a click-through rate. So then you know how many people clicked on that link to go to another website. So that's what it would be, the click-through rate.
And
okay.
couldn't the project deliverable just be the link that is added to the San Clemente website? I mean, that in itself.
Just the availability alone?
Yeah, I mean, I think that in
Yeah.
itself is sort of part one of that, is that it's available for the public to use, which is a benefit. And then the second part is are people actually using it?
Right, because you want to determine whether it's worth even having. I mean, is it effective? Is it making a difference? Is it giving them the information that you thought we were?
Okay, so for the meeting minutes, for the goal, okay, so we might need to, I've got a lot of stuff under this goal.
Wait, where are you?
Maybe we need to review and delete and confirm what you want to keep right for right now. So first sentence is research if model is effective at providing the public with timely beach water quality data. I don't know if research is the key word though.
Read that again, please.
Research if model is effective at providing the public with timely beach water quality.
I thought he said we agreed on evaluate. Didn't we? Wait.
Evaluate instead of research, right?
Right.
Got it? I'll
Yeah.
change that. And then the next sentence, oh, it's comparing the accuracy of the model with the beach grade with indicator bacteria data collected through the Unified Beach Water Quality Group.
Right, right.
You're not doing that, right? You're not going to, right, so delete that, okay. And then increase tools available to the public to evaluate beach water quality data. I think that's what Jordan came up with, increase tools available to the public to evaluate beach water quality data.
I don't know that it sounded that way. Jareen, what do you think?
Right? I think that's what I said. I think I might have said increase the number of tools, but
Yes, I think you
That's
did
kind
say
of-
number of tools.
that might be extraneous too.
And I'm wondering if you want in a timely manner or something, because that's the key about this Nowcast model is that you can look at it right away. You don't have to wait 2 days to find out if
Right.
quality is protective. So
I
increase
like that.
tools available to the public to
In a timely-
evaluate beach water quality in a
In
time.
a timely manner. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, yes. Would you read that when you're finished typing it? Will you read the whole thing, please?
Yeah, I hope that's not annoying that I'm typing, but it's probably more.
No, that's what you need to be doing, yes.
Okay, evaluate if model is effective at providing the public with timely beach water quality. Increase the number of tools available to the public to evaluate beach water quality in a timely manner.
No, I like those.
Okay.
Agreement from anybody else? Doreen, you happy with those two?
Yeah.
Joe?
Yep, sounds good.
Gary? Chris, you want to comment? Are you still with us, Chris?
I am. I'm listening.
Okay. You feel free to pipe up anytime you want. Okay, then.
Appreciate it.
Okay, and then again, a deliverable. Yeah, you want to report, if not monthly, at least quarterly. I mean, how difficult could that be? You'd see the count right there. It would be right. If people are going to the link, as you said, it counts, right, Cynthia?
Yeah, I just have to see if
Click the link.
I have to see if IT can even do that.
Okay. So
Yeah.
put a note to yourself And for all of us that you're checking on that, would you please?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, do the rest of you want to go through the other categories at this time, expected, estimated cost, timeline, resources, or new unfinished? Or should we do those next month when Cynthia's got all of the information? I vote for next month.
Next month.
Joe, what do you
Next
think? Next month.
Is that's for all the outstanding items, right? For everything on the next 4 pages?
Yeah, all those data things that are Cynthia's responsibility, and she's so volunteered to jump right in and do it. So we can give her a month extension. Us kind committee members. Doreen, are you piping in on this?
Yeah, let's just push it.
Okay, let's go. Next page. Project name. Project name is one of these. We can choose. This whole thing is about sponsoring, hosting, and co-hosting inland San Clemente area cleanup events. Remember when I had a speaker come in and speak to us about zero trash? We're in Laguna. The gentleman came in. He was a council member in Rancho Santa Margarita. He had learned about the zero trash program in Laguna Beach and set it up. So it was essentially a group of volunteers who got together from the community to go to certain sections and clean up trash in the city. Well, that was very effective in Laguna, and he reproduced it in Rancho Santa Margarita. He enlisted a nonprofit in order to get grants and money. And through that nonprofit, they got together with Chamber of Commerce, etc. And through them, they had T-shirts that, I think they were called the Red Shirt Team, but they had red T-shirts. And when the company sponsored the Zero Trash program, their logo would be on the back of the T-shirt, but they had the big splash name on the front. So the company got free advertising, and the public, the community, got the money to do the program. So that included all the cleanup tools and all of that stuff. And businesses came forward to rent a dumpster, or this chamber and the nonprofit gathered money and funds in some kind of Clean Ocean or Clean City fund to put out when the cleanup was done. They did it one Saturday a month at a 2-hour time segment. And they picked the location, or sometimes they would let people go wherever they want. So it was a family-oriented thing. And they did have the people come back, and they did weigh the trash, etc., and measured. And they had come to us, and we asked. They did the weighing and measuring after they came to us when we had those questions for him. And he went back and said, "Oh, we need to do this." And after they did that, they qualified and received a really big grant to go on for the next year. So at any rate, this came out of that, and I said our project should really have a good name to it, not just, inland cleaning team or whatever, or activities. I thought we could create a real project here and have it manifest itself in various vestiges. So, for example, it could be, if we started out with We Love San Clemente, or San Clemente Beautiful, or Zero Trash SC, or SC No Trash, and that would be the zero with the line through it. I am partial to the really out there We Love San Clemente or San Clemente Beautiful. Now I know San Diego has a project similar to this, where they bring in all kinds of nonprofits, or if they want to volunteer to help. So if there's other people that want to come and do cleanups in the city, or if they want to do other things, or the city or the community members can also come in as a vestige of this We Love San Clemente. They might want to do a poster contest to see who can do the best poster about cleaning up trash or keeping our city clean, or here's what our city looks like clean, or a photography contest. And it could be in age levels, and that increases, and it could be of trash and then trash removed, and see how much cleaner this is. It would be great for schools to write essays on what they did. It'd be perfect for our environmental grant program motivation. I mean, there's so many things that you could go with this level, and it just going out to start to the public and getting involved with the chamber, having them put their nuggets out, or even certain industries in town. The realtors might want to do these things. Of course, a lot of these things may not be, dollar worthy right now because of the COVID situation, but we probably wouldn't start something like this until January. We'd have to do a lot of homework. I would volunteer to be the CAC representative on this and then work with various nonprofits. And if anybody wanted to assist me, either we could stagger months or something like that. But I'm just talking about the goal is to host and do cleanups in the city, because not only we need that, we like to do that, but Cynthia indicated to me that environmental services is having a lot of problems with keeping the streets clean as well. Shortage of staff, COVID, etc. Cynthia, you can expand on that for a couple of minutes if you like.
No, I don't.
I pretty much covered it.
Hand on that. Nope.
Okay. Alrighty. So in essence, so that would be one of the titles I'd like to pick when it could be. My choice would be either We Love San Clemente, to make it global, to give people other ideas. They would come up with other ways to make San Clemente beautiful, or San Clemente beautiful. And that would be so much fun. You could get scout troops. I mean, I could go on and on and on about this. But at any rate, the purpose would be to sponsor, host, and co-host inland San Clemente area cleanups events. That's our first purpose. And we could add involving the community members or enlisting the help of community members if we wanted to. The goal would be to coordinate cleanup events and seek out potential partners to collaborate and eliminate water runoff issues, trash, plastics, and oil discharges from reaching local creeks and the ocean. That comes straight from one of the recommendations that was made on page 5, item 6, and on page 9, item 4 of our original work plan. So we have covered that as part of the action items we wanted to do before in this one goal. So, and the deliverable would be the event report. So the number of volunteers, the sponsoring agencies, the partners, and the pounds of debris removed. That would be our initial start into this. So I move we push this through. Any comments?
Susan, this is Chris Kaczynski. I love the names. I would just have one small change, propose a change for consideration, is instead of We Love San Clemente, make it more personal and say I love San Clemente, or instead of San Clemente Beautiful, beautify San Clemente.
I like I love San Clemente because that is personal. I like San Clemente Beautiful only because it can. I don't want it to just be about cleaning up. I want it to be that San Clemente is beautiful even right now. So we're shouting out San Clemente Beautiful! Exclamation point. That was my intent, and I didn't explain that very well. But I like your offerings, particularly the first one.
When I was in Downey, my first involvement was starting Keep Downey Beautiful, under Keep America Beautiful.
Ah.
But it does take quite a bit of time. It took probably 8 years before now Downey has an actual person and a budget, for Keep Downey Beautiful. But it takes a while. We originally were sponsored by Owens Corning, Owens, Illinois Glass Company, who did a lot of the initial, foot expenditures. But we called it Keep Downey Beautiful because we could just say Keep KDB, but we also printed buttons, that say I love Downey.
Yes.
Involved with the school district. I think it's a good, program to maybe start, but it's going to take time and a lot of, and they have cleanups. This person in Downey who's budgeted also involves their recycling program and the graffiti abatement program, which we finally got into the budget, the city.
Yes. So those are the kinds of extensions and vestiges that could happen. Also, during the candidate forum, one of the speakers asked a candidate, I'm so tired of the trash on the streets on Main Street on Del Mar and some of the auxiliaries. You can't even go into a restaurant without stepping in somebody's trash on the way out. And people then started muttering and complaining as well. Well, I went up and met the moderator, who happened to be on the board of the Chamber of Commerce and is an executive in a company in town, or probably at the office in town, but a much larger company, and said, I told him about the speaker that I had come in on zero trash, and I was thinking about hoping that our Coastal Advisory Committee could get something going, and maybe we could help give you ideas. We could work together cooperatively and collaboratively to create something. And he said, yes, call me. Let's sit down and talk about it. So I have an invitation, if you will, to talk about it. If any of you want to come with me, if I accept that invitation, if we all agree that this is doable, I'd be happy to carry any one of you along with me. And we can even have two of you could have a subcommittee. But my point here is, I think there's ways in, particularly since they're doing outdoor dining right now as well. And it's part of being part of the solution. And it's helping out businesses, so businesses will want to get involved. They're going to throw in whatever it takes to buy a bunch of T-shirts, etc., and the tools. And the city might be able to squeeze out loaning some cleanup tools to us, since we're helping city streets get clean. But I'm just looking at Cynthia, and she's not smiling back at me.
But we have the money in our
Okay.
to provide cleanup supplies. We just, in this next year, do not have any staff time.
Yes. So that's why I'm saying if we
So
got
that's
to,
where it's coming, like Gary's mentioning, that if you've got
it might be tough.
and if you have a business that's willing to, start it off and do it, that it could eventually roll into where it's incorporated into the city. But
Yes,
I'm
yes.
just not comfortable right now with trying to coordinate events. When we weren't in COVID, city staff are coordinating 6 weekend events already per year. So adding more weekend staff hours might not be feasible right now. But if you can find a champion in a business that might be willing to support.
Well, I think talking to this gentleman about him and his resources and how he, it's right now the fact that he's even interested at a level where he's got his fingers in the Chamber of Commerce activities, etc. At least we'd find out what the situation is like. Dip our toes in and see what can be done.
Yeah, I think the Chamber of Commerce is a good resource because there's obviously a lot of businesses that way.
Oh, sure, and the Downtown Business Association as well. They both would be. They'd
Right.
both be eager to, I think, collectively contribute to this and not only help recruit people, but give money to get the T-shirts going. So it is kind of a group of people. And there's all kinds of other incentives. Remember that he said they could put a decal or a small little poster or strip in their window saying, I support I Love San Clemente, or the bumper sticker would just say I love San Clemente or San Clemente Beautiful, one or the other. So I support whatever. And so that gives them to be part of the community spirit. When I take the signs out, the posters out for California Cleanup Day, businesses always tell me, why don't you please next year bring them earlier. I really want to advertise this. I could get whole groups of people to go down and do this. So, I mean, they really want to help. And even when I put up my stations at places, people come up and say, I wish I would have known about this sooner. I could have had the whole family here, and on and on and on. So it's all about preparing for things like this and then letting them know when to come and what the positives are. People want to help the city. They want to do something, especially in hard times like this. They want to feel useful because they're not working.
Okay,
So
Susan.
that's just my 2 cents worth.
Okay, Susan, 8:49.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, so how do we feel about...
Item 3, we've got 5 more to go. So
I got it. Thank you for that reminder. What do the rest of you think about this? I think it's good as it is. But what is your thought? We don't have to choose the title right now. It's still on there. Are you agreeing
I like
that
it.
we should do this?
This is Chris. I like it. I think it's a great cause. And I just want to throw another name out there for consideration.
Okay.
I love a clean San Clemente.
Oh, yeah. That too. I love a clean San Clemente.
So my suggestion with this, I really think this is a great idea. I've always, I enjoyed the presentation from Rancho Santa Margarita. I know there's people already in the community that do this sort of thing where they go up in the watersheds and they pick
Yeah.
up trash, or, you know, the people along the beach trail and things like that are already kind of implementing and some of this. So to me, we just need to carve out, like, you know, what Gary had said, just a very small piece, since the city's not going to be able to devote much staff time. I don't know if we could sponsor events or host events, but, you know, maybe we could do something very small, like one, just even create the program and maybe give it space, again, like on a website where, you know, if it's San Clemente Beautiful or Clean San Clemente or whatever you want to call it, and say, you know, we want to beautify our city and we want to help support, you know, citizens that are interested in this. And then maybe like the first year we could just put together a couple of packages or cleanup packages that, you know, groups can come pick up, and includes the trash bags, the gloves, and, you know, similar to what we do for beach cleanup. So we have that available for companies that want to participate in San Clemente Beautiful, or maybe even have, like, you know, I don't know if there's budget for t-shirts or something like that, but, you know, just something small that we could just get this started, and, you know, have it not be too much staff time, since there's.
Well, I'm not
doesn't
even
seem to-
considering staff time right now. I'm really thinking about just establishing the players and getting a level of interest from not only nonprofits, but first with this gentleman with the chamber contacts and the DBA contacts, and through there, they're going to have nonprofit contacts. There's so many nonprofits in town that may want to join in also. So that could be the committee and that would be the base of the board of directors. And maybe the city would want to come in later if we needed special, I don't know. Right now I'm thinking of the city's really not involved in staffing, but we would be part of Coastal Advisory Committee in helping the citizens help clean up the areas.
And when we started, besides we wanted to be associated with the Keep America Beautiful, you know, organization, so we had to do a photometric survey of town, like litter, and we got a couple Eagle Scouts to do it. This is when it was a non-budgeted item for the city. And the other thing we did is we got both Owens, Illinois, and our trash contractor. You know, here would be CR&R.
Yes.
One of the first things we did is we instituted a coloring book for all the third graders in town that had the issues of recycling and litter. And that still is every third grader every year, you know, just like your California mission.
Yeah.
We have recycling and keeping your town beautiful in like a coloring book so you know, there are
there's
things.
Alignment there with the city as well as energy and environment. That's a great idea, Gary.
And those are ideas that you can start. We even did like tree planting, but we had the trees. The trees were all donated by the city, and we just provided the labor, you know, to dig and that kind of stuff. Although there were staff that helped, but so
well, maybe you could join me in this meeting with this fellow and share these ideas. I think those are great ideas.
it's a good idea, but it takes time.
Well, yes, you know, and we have to see what he can put in. We can float the idea and see how we can. I can jot up some charts, you and I can talk on the phone and make some kind of outline of activities of what's involved. But right now, it wouldn't per se be a city-run issue. We would be representing Coastal Advisory to keep the community clean, and then see where we can get with that. So that's.
So I would say it sounds like there's been a pretty broad consensus on this item, right? And as Cynthia had mentioned, number 3 of 8. So is the intent here, are we to do a hard stop at 9, or are we going to keep on trying to move through this? Because it seems like there's a pretty big consensus on this item.
Well, that's what I was asking is, do I have support here? And I wasn't getting nobody answered in support. So
I
what's
think
the
you should
consensus?
Move forward.
You support? Okay. Joe, do you support?
Yes, it's a good idea.
Okay, Jareen?
Yeah.
Okay. So I support you. So for right now, let's leave as is. If you have further suggestions, please write them down and send them to Cynthia. And what time is it now?
9.
5 till 9.
8:55? What should we do? Let's do at least this next one on this page. Maybe we can get through all the rest real quickly. We took a lot of time debating. Okay, the next one is the local coastal program implementation. And I think this is pretty basic as well. Have you all read it? Purpose is to ensure the local coastal program implementation plan elements, including, remember, we're talking about current to future, not things in the past. The sea level rise vulnerability assessment study and the coastal resiliency plan are protective of coastal resources. Both of those are ongoing right now, so that's a very clear purpose of what we would be doing in the element of the local coastal program.
I can vote to move this on because this is stuff that will be coming to us anyways. We'll just make recommendations on it. So I don't really see why we have to, right? This information is going to come to us.
It's going to come to us and we make recommendations, et cetera,
Right.
but we also want to provide feedback and comments, recommendations to planning staff, as well as the consultants on the draft documents like we have in the past. But we also want to follow up with the success of how those coastal programs affected communities. So that's pretty simple to me.
Yeah.
That is stuff in the vein of what we've done in the past and what we continue to do with these two new elements of the local coastal program. That's why they're included. Because the local coastal program is part of our mission and goals.
I'm in favor of moving it forward.
Okay, Joe?
Yep, concur. I agree. This is a good one.
Doreen?
Yep.
Me too. 4-0. So those two got 4-0. And the other one's got 4-0. Chris, type it and chime in if you do want to vote on one of these, Chris.
I support it.
Okay, so that's 5-0. Cynthia, did you get that?
Yeah, it's not a voting item.
No, I'm just saying we just want to, for the record, know who's going on, what's happening.
I don't think we're going to keep that in the record, but that's okay.
What's going to be on our notes?
I don't think that
Okay, there's no point to it. It's
Approve,
okay. Let's
right.
just go on.
individual item is going to be in our meeting minutes.
I'm just going to move on.
Okay.
We're at the next one. The installation of a bottle refill station. This came from page 8. Items 4 and 5. We talked about this. We all agreed upon it in our earlier meetings last year and I think early this year. And this was taken from page 8, items 4 and 5. Reduce single-use plastic bottles by installing a reusable bottle refill station in high-traffic coastal areas. Actually, we asked for 2 stations, and this was reduced because one station was filled by Pure Pride at the pier. So this was reduced by 1, but we could still say that's still our goal, to reduce single-use plastic bottles by installing reusable bottle refill stations, because there might be donations that might give us more money. The goal would be to identify nonprofit organizations and private parties to assist in promoting the reduction of single-use plastic bottles and funding one bottle refill station. So the goal is to go to nonprofits and other private parties with the understanding that we want to reduce single-use plastic bottles. And one of the ways, a very effective way to do that is to help them contribute to installing a bottle station, a refill station. So that would be the goal. And this springs from Cynthia's comment that the city doesn't have any money for this. So I brought up this one so we could get funding for the refill station. And Cynthia agreed that it was potentially doable. What do you think? I'm asking for a yes approval on this, but your comments are welcomed and valued.
My only comment would be where it says maintenance is about $15,000 per year. Is that per station?
Yes, I got that information. I'm sorry.
That seems kind of
Go
high.
ahead.
It seems kind of high. I talked to our maintenance staff, and that person said, due to vandalism, that
Yeah.
it's probably about $15,000 a year. He was just throwing out a ballpark figure, but he's just seen a lot of vandalism down in the beach area. There are bottle refill stations that they did just install one at the bathroom in the middle of the pier. If you go toward the pier, they're installing it right now. I think they're doing some bathroom upgrades.
That's Pure Pride's work.
And so I think we'll see how how that holds up, you know, if with vandalism. But there are 10 drinking fountains along the trail. I found that out. And the particular ones that they're installing are only $4,000, but I did speak to somebody at Orange County Parks and Rec who has bottle refill stations in Dana Point, in the Dana Point area.
Mhm.
And that was like maybe a year ago. I was doing a little research, and that was $7,000 at that time just to install one. But I thought what I could do in the meantime, before our next meeting, is contact Orange County Parks and Rec and see if they have vandalism problems. But it might be a different crowd between San Clemente and Dana Point. I think that vandalism.
Depending on the location, do you have a listing of the locations where the fountains are?
No, I do not.
How did you count them?
I didn't count them. I was told that there was 10.
Oh, well, maybe the person who told you knows where they are.
Yes, I'm sure he does.
Well, the
Could
thing
you
is
contact
our-
that person and find out where they are? Because that may, if there's 2 or 3 at T Street, for example, that would not be the site if there's already drinking fountains there.
No, and I think maybe first I don't know that we need to do the research on where those stations are right now. I think the first step is to see if City Council is going to support this in their work plan. And then if so, then doing a little bit more research on the stations.
Well, I think data helps. You take something to City Council, you need information and data. But what about the idea? What are we thinking? Do we want to go through with this one? This was on our original work plan. Anybody
I
have
think
a comment?
This, although it's good, it may be one of my lower because of the costs and the vandalism and how many bottles it really saves. It might be the lower on the lower totem pole of the other ones. Like the next one coming up, that's probably our big priority, is to get the Clean Ocean fee renewed.
Well, that is a big priority, but this is a separate one.
Yeah, so I would make it as a lower, maybe we should study it, or maybe we should float the idea in front of the council. If they don't want to put up that kind of money, it's not going to happen unless you wanted to as a private, some kind of a, you know, company sponsoring $10,000 to put in one.
Well, and again, Pure
But then
Pride got, I'm sorry?
Someone has to maintain it.
Yes, again, Pure Pride got the one at the pier from private donations, and I think they might have gotten a grant. And I'm not sure how their contract reads in maintenance. I didn't explore that further. But there are places and companies that want to invest in things like this just because they have that in their company bylaws that they contribute to the community. So those might be sources. It would be some contact work should we take this on. And if staff doesn't want to do that, I'd be willing to make some phone calls. But in terms of priority, I don't know that we were prioritizing these, but it seems like that they went in that order. But maybe we were prioritizing them according to the page they came on in the work plan. Isn't that right, Cynthia?
Yeah, they're just in order of the.
Yeah, it was not a priority as what's most important. It was a priority as how we put it in our work plan.
And
under
I
the
want to
issues.
bring up that maybe the 2019 work plan is like a 5-year work plan because there's so many items in there. And
Yes.
keeping in mind that this is an annual work plan, and by the time it goes to City Council and gets approved, it's going to be January.
Yes.
So then you only have 6 months to get some of these items done. So keeping that in mind is probably important as well.
Well, then, why don't we follow, my suggestion here is keep it on our list as is and add, just add a note to us that lower priority due to timing and current lack of sponsors. But I don't think our instruction was to determine what's best for coastal advisory and the city's coastline, keeping clean ocean, clean beaches. That's our mission. We're not supposed to be evaluating whether we can afford to do that. That's the city council's mission. That's what I've been told by city council members since I've been here. You don't make finance decisions, Ambrose. You bring us the ideas, we tell you. I'm going to stick by that. I'm going to continue to follow that. But, so I'm in agreement, but are all of you in agreement with keeping this on our list at least? Joe?
I'm good with it. I think there's a legitimate concern about what we can achieve in a year, but yeah,
Yeah.
I think this is a good goal and it's reasonable. So
And remember, in September, we can look at these and say, hey, looking at the time element, all the things we have to do now that we see this in black and white, maybe it's next year's. But, so, Jareen?
Yeah, I support this being on there. I mean, I would take a second look about that maintenance cost that Gary identified, because I think every drinking fountain has already existing maintenance costs associated with it, because someone has to go out and make sure that they're functioning
Yeah.
properly anyway. And this is just a retrofit of a drinking station, so it would have to be above and beyond what we're already paying. So I would just want to really make sure that number is right, because that seems very, very high to me. Because we installed one of these at our school, and even with the filters and all that, I mean, we have a very advanced filtration system, and it's not anywhere near the 15,000 for one. So,
Well, and I mentored one at Marblehead, and they got an environmental grant from us to put one in. And when I talked to Faith, the principal there, this was not, and their district representative, this was way much higher than he told me.
yeah, I think it's legitimate to be budgeting for sustainment costs, right? But I think what might be different than one of the indoor applications that you're discussing is it's as simple as these outdoor ones. They're not solar powered. There's not a sensor. You got to press a button and it comes in, right? It's not like what you would see in an airport. So
Yes.
I think they can make them more park style, like similar to the faucets that are out there now, to potentially reduce the maintenance cost.
yeah.
Yes.
I agree, and there's a good example actually at the skate park in San Clemente, the Ralph Skate Park. The Boy Scouts installed one, and it doesn't look it's not like the airports with where it's counting the number of bottles that you saved. It's a very kind of low key one, and it looks bulletproof, and that is prime area for vandalism, and it is still intact. So
Yeah, okay, that's good. Those are good comments.
Yeah, thank you, Doreen. I'll look into that. And just to let you know that the 10 drinking fountains along the trail, I was told, are, I don't want to say vandalism proof, but they were selected with vandalism in mind, and that this would have to be a full replacement. It's not a retrofit situation for the ones down at the trail, is what I was told. But
Were you just told that just now?
No.
Oh, okay. I thought you just got some new information.
No. And so I'll go check out the Ralph's skate park in San Clemente, and then I can ask the maintenance staff about that when it was installed, and I can go kind of look and see what it looks like, the status of it.
Okay. Thank you. Well, let's get back to focus. So is this moving forward? Joe said yes. Jareen said yes. Gary said yes. I'm saying yes. This is a yes written right now as the way it is, correct? With put a question mark, please, Cynthia, on the 7,000, 10,000, or put a note to self to double check on that. And not to yourself, but all of us, or perhaps just you since you're doing the financials. And then, what was the other concern? The priority. If we have to only put in 7, for example, this might be at the low end of, instead of 8, 7. Are we all in concurrence with that? Yes? Okay. It's 9:08. Are you guys okay with trying to finish this tonight? Or do you want to continue it and go to the rest of our agenda?
My recommendation would be to go to the rest of the agenda. We're quickly approaching a 3-hour meeting, and I think when we were actively meeting before, I think we tried to get away from having meetings of 3 hours. So
I was wrong. There's only 2 left. And one's a really easy one. One's the environmental grant. So let's do that one now.
There's 3, and I would propose that we just pass them all forward, but we'll all look at them further as we go, as we meet in September.
Yeah, okay. I agree with that.
So
Joe?
I don't have
Doreen?
objection.
yeah,
let's just pass them forward for right now to be on our September agenda.
Sounds good.
And that'll give you time before the September meeting. I can send this out separate ahead of time, probably next week, with these changes, and then that gives you time to review and provide comment, come up with changes.
Okay, Jermaine, what was your vote, please?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm a yes also. Chris, did you want to register on that, Chris?
Yes. That's a yes for
Okay.
Chris.
Okay, yes for Chris, we're moving on. Okay, then we were past this on. We are moving along to our agenda very quickly. Let's go to communications. Cynthia gave us 6 months of bacteriological monitoring reports. And if any of you have a question about any of them, now's the time to ask your question. I can point out that July looked like a good month for the pier. So that's good news. But other than that, I have no other questions about them. They seem pretty similar to past months prior to July. So shall we pass them forward?
Yeah, if there's no discussion, I'd move that we receive and file items 8A and 8B.
As well, we didn't get to environmental programs yet. Let me just bring it. Let's get the vote first. Your motion first on A, Gary.
Okay, I would move to approve item 8A, to receive and file.
May I have a second?
Chris will second.
All in
Yeah.
favor? Aye. Let me go through the
Aye.
let me go through the count.
I don't recall us having to vote on these items in the past. Cynthia, do we need to vote on this?
Technically you do.
Yes,
But
Okay.
the motion.
Okay, all right.
It's not a voting.
Aye.
It's not a voting item. It's not going to be recorded in the minutes as a voting item with the vote count.
Okay.
but in real life you do. You vote to receive and file.
All right.
It's like-
Well, then let's go on.
There.
I'm sorry, Gary?
It's like a consent calendar.
Yes. Yes.
Go ahead.
Let's go on to Part B, the environmental program updates. Again, there was a long list of things that Cynthia and her staff do for environmental services and programs and presentations that they attend. I think we can push this forward. If you have any questions specifically about any one of them, you can send it directly to Cynthia, and I will ask you, Cynthia, to make a note of that and make a slight report and give us a verbal report next month on our agenda.
Yeah, or if people want to, I can.
In other words, I'm moving this.
I guess they can bring it up and I can mention the comments at the September meeting.
Yes, okay. So I'm Gary,
I'm in favor.
Joe? We're
Yes.
moving it forward.
Yes.
And if there's anything specific that you want to know more about, let Cynthia know, and she will put a small mini verbal report together. Doreen?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Thank you. All of us agree to that. Let us go on to 9A, CAC members. Anybody have anything special today? I had a bunch, but I'm going to send whatever I have to Cynthia to send to you by links or something of that nature, rather than take up extra time. But one of them is, by the way, the California Coastal Commission had their hearing on the part of the LUP. They were going to deny the amendment that was added regarding the date to use, what date you use when you calculate back money spent for repairs and all those other things. There'll be links in the paper and a lot of information tomorrow that if I find it, I'll send it to Cynthia to distribute. Is tomorrow a Dark Friday, Cynthia?
No.
Okay. So maybe if not tomorrow, then early next month. Next week. Okay with everyone? Anybody else have a comment for CAC?
I have one alibi. The Enterprise Rent-A-Car on El Camino Real. I don't know if they have like a permit for the wash rack they were using over there, but I've seen it a couple of times. They're just washing vehicles off, and the water's going down into the drain, like down alley, down the street. So might make sense to send somebody by there sometime during the day when they're washing cars.
Got it. Enterprise Rent-A-Car on what street?
El Camino Real. It's over there.
You got it. I'll send somebody over there tomorrow. Check out.
Okay.
All right.
Alrighty. Okay. Cynthia, see how fast you can get these done, please, so I can meet the 9:30 deadline.
Coastal Cleanup Day was originally scheduled for September 25th or 26th, but obviously due to COVID-19, they're not going to be hosting sites throughout Southern California. California Coastal Commission, I believe, is looking to do having like families clean up in their community, which is kind of like the inland cleanup event.
Yes, it is.
It'd
Yes.
be a good pilot to see how that goes.
Yes.
And so I don't have much details, but I need to get that information and get that publicly out, is the process and what they would do. And it would just be families going out and picking up their debris and stuff in their neighborhood. There's an app that they could actually enter their data in, like number of people in their family that participated, pounds of trash picked up, any odd items,
Well, that's
area that they did the pickup at. And so then they can report that to the California Coastal Commission. So I think that's where that's going to go. And you might have more details on that, Susan. You said you may have gotten an email.
I do have more details on that. Just real quickly, there are posters available. I thought I sent that link to you to send to CAC members. The poster about a month ago.
I don't think I've seen it, but I'll have to go back and look, or just resend it to me.
Yeah, I'll resend it to you.
Okay.
Yes, it's for distribution. And Clean Swell is, we've used that before for California Coastal Cleanup Day. And you can go through a YouTube training, and you have your own phone, and you just put in the app, and you can record your own trash pickup and get the data directly from the state and directly submit it to the state. So you don't need a middleman at all. So if you have your own group and you want to do your own family or whatever it is, you're in charge of the whole cleanup yourself in essence. So, and they were saying, the Coastal Commission was asking for every Saturday, but if families only wanted to choose one Saturday, then they could do that. But they were asking for every Saturday of 2 hours. No more than 2 hours, because they don't want people to get tired, and to be safe. Safety first, water, sunscreen, gloves, etc.
Yeah, I think they were encouraging just pick a Saturday in September. So it just wouldn't be the one day. They could pick one Saturday and go do the cleanup.
Well, yes, and they also said if you can't do Saturday for whatever reason, you could choose any day.
Oh.
So, yes, I could send you that information too. But so that was it on Coastal Cleanup Day.
Yep.
And we already talked, you already told, you want to go on the September 29th cancellation?
Yeah, the Joint City Council Commissions Committee's meeting is canceled. That was scheduled for September 29th, obviously due to COVID-19. So just remove that from your calendars. I believe I already sent that email out a while back to you, letting you know of that cancellation.
Okay, great. Thank you. Potential future agenda items. Well, look at your last page, or your page. Let me get over there. For September, you see the one that's got the most attention, if I can get there myself.
While you're looking that up, Susan, can I missed an item under city staff, the Clean Ocean Fee renewal update.
Oh, yes, please do that right now.
We are working on the final costs, what we see the program going to cost in the next 5 to 10 years. So to get that over to the consultant that's going to do the fee analysis, that would include just the standard program elements that we're required to do under the permit, under the MS4 permit. And then it would also include capital improvement projects, which could be the low flow diversion that Dave mentioned over in Prima de Chiquinata Creek, which could be a $3 million item. So we are getting those numbers finalized. And then the secured tax roll for 2020 was just released. And that secured tax roll just has all the different properties, sizes, information, data regarding all the parcels in the city of San Clemente. The fee consultant will use that information to spread the costs across all those properties. So I don't have any good details, but we have this as a standing item. So each month, once the fee analysis is done and the information is prepared before we go to City Council, we're going to bring it to the Coastal Advisory Committee for your review and comment, which will probably be October is kind of what our goal is.
Okay.
And then get your feedback information, comments, and then we take that before City Council eventually.
Thank you for catching that. And can you put together, I know there's some written material already about the Clean Ocean Fee that was presented to the City Council. Would you send that information in that agenda packet to all of our CAC members, please, regarding the Clean Ocean Fee? The whys it was canceled or expired and what's happening now? Because I unfortunately, I only gave you a couple minutes here crunched at the end, and people are pretty tired. I'd like to give them time to read over the document, see the figures, and just absorb it.
Okay, and I'll double check with you what document that is, because I'm not sure what you're
Okay,
referring
thanks. Yes,
Okay.
yes.
When is the proposed election? Next November? A year from November?
Well,
No.
it's not based on the traditional ballot. We have to do a majority protest. That's a 6-week period. If we don't get majority, and we can start that anytime we want. It's strategizing when do we send that majority protest ballot out. That would start the 6-week process for that. If we don't get a majority protest at a city council meeting, then we can send the ballots out, and then there would be 6 weeks for those ballots to be returned. So it's about a 3-month time period from the sending out of the majority protest to the ballots being due. So we could technically do it, in December if City Council approves, sending the majority protest out in December, and 6 weeks after that, maybe February, sending out ballots and having them back by the end of March. Or do we delay that even further? Maybe we send it.
Okay.
When does the fee expire?
The fee did expire already, June 30th of 2020.
And what was the reason why we let it expire? What was that reason again?
Well, I don't think we wanted it to expire. We were moving forward with the consultants, but due to COVID-19 and maybe financial reasons, do we ask property owners if they'd want to support a fee or not? So there's a strategy around the current situation and the economic situation right now, too.
Are you saying you took a poll?
No.
So when you said you asked people, you what? Just random people?
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say we asked people, but we had discussions internally about it.
Oh, okay. So inside it was decided to let it expire for those reasons you just gave?
Well, maybe I can jump in and help a little bit here. So really what happened is we were moving forward with getting the cost analysis together, and then COVID-19 hit, and we knew we were going to be extended by, probably a month or two. The fee was going to lapse, but then COVID-19 hit, and so everything slowed down. And now really the challenge is going to be, what's the appropriate timing? If you were to go to a ballot right now, this is me speaking, I would be concerned whether, voters would be willing to, pass a fee right now with the economic situation we're in due to COVID-19. So and we're fortunate that we have fund balance. And when Cynthia sends that memo, it's a long-term financial plan, and I provided a 1-page or 2-page memo attached to it, and she can forward that out to the Coastal Advisory Committee. So fortunately there was money left over, but I'm probably talking too long. So
No. I appreciate you. Hold on a minute, Gary. I appreciate you jumping in there, Mr. Riebensdorf. I certainly do. Go ahead, Gary. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It expired. I just paid mine. So it probably doesn't expire till the end of the year. I just paid $30.60 on August the 3rd. Clean Ocean Fee.
Are you?
I do.
So it's not. So you guys are still taking it out.
That's in arrears. So,
are you in Santa Margarita?
Yeah.
We'll
They're
double,
not part of this, are they, Dave?
yes, they are.
Well, yeah, because the city's service area doesn't encompass all of San Clemente, so customers or citizens that live in Talega, Santa Margarita serves that area, so they charge on their water bills on a quarterly basis. So we need to take a look at.
No, this is a city. It says City of San Clemente. I paid both my storm drain and my clean ocean fee.
Let me double check. I'm wondering if your July bill was,
4th.
pardon me?
Gary, you have to talk into your mic.
Let me double check with utility billing, and I think that your charge in July covers June.
May I suggest, Gary, that you contact Cynthia tomorrow or send her a copy of it, and you two work this out. Thank you.
Well, it's important information.
Well, of course.
We contacted utility billing and asked them to stop charging the fees. And I believe my understanding is that those are billed in arrears. So your July bill is probably for June, and you should not receive it beyond that. So I'll double check. Well, okay.
Yeah, I got the same bill that Gary did and paid it, the $30. So, but I don't remember seeing that. I only remember seeing that bill once a year, right? So I think twice.
If you,
Right.
Yeah, if you're in Talega, it is twice a year. It's every 6 months.
Okay.
What is it to the city once?
Pardon me?
What is it in the rest of city? Non-Talega.
It goes out with the utility bills, which is
What I
monthly.
mean, do they pay twice a year
It's
or once a
monthly.
year?
Yeah, it's monthly.
And on that ballot, I thought the ballots were included in the water bill. Are you saying there's a separate ballot that's going to be mailed to homeowners, or is it going out in the water bill? Dave?
No, the ballot will be separate to property owners.
So it's going to be a separate mailing. It's not going to be included in the water bill, is my question.
Correct.
Wow. It's going to draw more attention to it.
It's never been in the water bill. It's always been a separate ballot.
Oh. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. So, well, at least Cynthia, Mr. Riebensdorf's input told you one of the forms that regarding the long-term financial plan, and his document, his one-page document, is one of the documents I was referring to.
Okay, and I'll get that and send that out probably tomorrow to you folks. Okay.
Great. Thank you. All righty. And then, so we're looking at the September agenda. Right on September, we are going to finish the CAC annual work plan because we must. And if we don't, we will call probably a special meeting and mid-October. Or no, this is due October 1st. So we have to really put our, that means really any comments that we have from here forward, any ideas you have, write them down. You can use the format or those extra forms that Cynthia sent to all of us. Cynthia, I got a bunch of them. Did anybody else get some blank forms? You know, looking like this, only not written on, except they were totally white?
No, Susan, I only emailed the PDF of the pages that we are talking about today. They did not.
I know that through Lori Beyer.
Oh, she may have sent them.
Yes. She sent that out because it was on the city council agenda where this was approved of July 7th. So if you want to put something on a form, you can make a copy of that form, or Cynthia, perhaps you can send them the link.
Okay, so do we have to vote on and approve the final work plan next month, or is it just good that it's done? Because if so, we need to ensure we have a quorum next month. Otherwise, we're toast, right? So. We do.
We have to have it it has to be submitted by October 1st.
Yeah, understood. But does it have to be voted on by the committee before it's submitted? It does?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, that's going to be the big time taker on September. We also have a presentation from planning and the consultant on the coastal resiliency plan, which we were supposed to have in March, but since we didn't meet in March, It's been continued to this point. And then just an update that Cynthia almost did here, the Clean Ocean Fee Renewal Progress Update. And you'll have more about what the consultants have done, correct?
Yes.
I wanted to hold up real quick something that Cynthia did with her people. Can you see this? You probably saw this in the San Clemente Times. Can you see this?
Yeah.
Yep.
I
saw it
really
today.
like
Looks
this.
good.
I called Cynthia and called Dave and complimented them on this. I don't know, Chris, can you see this?
I don't. No.
Well, it's in the San Clemente Times. It's a Clean Ocean Fee program, and it talks about protecting San Clemente's beaches, the ocean, and our environment. And rather than being general, it's very specific about the kinds of activities and the quantity of activities that were done to protect and ensure clean water, clean oceans. Very well done. I suggested to Mr. Riebensdorf that perhaps even taking each one of these numbers and putting bullets on each of them to even be more specific would be fun for the residents to know how much work the Environmental Services Program does for them. In addition, I suggested that the 9 beaches that were honor roll and high ranking on Hilda Bay should be put on here, either with a picture of each beach with kids at it, or just the name of the beach, and with the name of the beach and the location, as these are honor roll, or these are the 9 beaches, wonderful beaches of San Clemente. Instead of focusing on the 2 bummers, let's focus on the real positives about what's going on in our city. We're successful in keeping our beaches clean for the high majority of our beaches. So this was a great effort. I applaud Cynthia and Dave and whoever was doing that for us.
Are we still on future items, potential future
Well,
agenda items?
I just finished with that Clean Ocean. That's why I added that comment. So October, did you have something else to add to September, Joe?
No, I just wanted to verify we were still on that agenda item.
Oh, yes, we're just finishing the future agenda items, yes. So October, pure bacteria source characterization update, and again, the Clean Ocean Fee update. And probably we'll have some fallover from things that we didn't get accomplished before, and some of the other things that we need to bring to the table. Does anybody have any further, because you can look further, the railroad impact study that we asked for, Ocean Protection Council strategic plan that I wanted, Habitat Restoration Project presentation. Jareen, are you still there? You had one on Sano songs.
Yeah, so Sano songs, I think, is important to have, and that might even be, if we could move it up at all, would be better to have sooner than later, because I've probably in the last month, just because of the discharge that happened, I had a few citizens approach me and ask me about what I knew about discharges of radioactive materials and hazardous waste into our oceans, is how they described it. And then also at T Street, I think I sent you, Cynthia, the photo. Someone was posting, I don't know who it was, but posting placards saying that radioactive waste was going into our oceans. And so it's definitely something that's in our community, I guess, eyes. And so I would like to learn more about it so I could be more informed when responding to people about that.
And you actually brought that up way back, I think it was December or January, as something to put on our agenda. I can tell this committee that I did put in a call to Mike Levin's office, our representative, to give me a call tomorrow or next week, or I haven't heard from him yet, but I'm sure that they will, regarding the recent task force report. And when I get that, my goal was to get a link so that I can have ask Cynthia to send it all to you as an FYI. And if we want a speaker to come in, as Jareen had originally asked, we might be able to do that if all of us agree to that. So that is I think that we should put that information request on our October 2020. Is that soon enough for you, Jareen?
Yeah, that's fine.
So I'm going to caution you about putting this item on our agenda. It is a very hot topic, and I could see comments coming from 200 people and our meeting lasting 4 to 5 hours. So Songs already has community meetings. They just had one on August 6th where the public can go and attend. They do not discharge radioactive material into the ocean. They have a discharge permit. They have to do regular sampling. They don't discharge radioactive material, even though people want to say that. They do not. And I really caution having this on our agenda. It will be a very long and very contentious meeting.
What is our community members' thoughts on this?
Well, I think if there's another way to accomplish, I mean, basically what I wanted, and I think, Cynthia, you did send me some information,
Yes.
is, I mean, maybe we can just convey it in a report so it doesn't have to be an agenda item. It's just something to inform me, what is it that they're doing? How often are they doing it? You know, what's really in there, you know? So I just think I have a few basic questions so I could just become, you know, more informed about what Songs is doing.
I mean, as a city staff person, I'm not going to be able to speak to anything about San Onofre and their discharges. All I can rely on is what they're saying.
Well, nobody's asking you to. If somebody
But they
came
will.
to speak,
The public will be asking city staff, what are you going to do about this? Because they already do that. And,
Right now, the songscommunity.com,
yes.
it's put up by Edison. It tells you everything about liquid batch releases. They have to notify 48 hours public notice before they do it. They have a discharge permit. Tells you the volume. How
why
long
don't you, can you send that link to us then, Gary?
I have it right here. I'm getting ready to send it all to you right now.
Okay. But, so Jareen, is that enough?
I mean, yeah, I guess in the sense that if
Well, if
There's
I
really
can get a
nothing-
link to the task force report too, that will be helpful and informative at least. So it wouldn't have to be in a meeting. We could read it first and then see what other questions we have. We could also find out when as Cynthia said, what other public forums are going to be or meetings. We could attend or send a representative to attend to come back and report to us.
yeah,
Instead
I mean,
of
I
meeting
think
attendance.
any of those would work because like I said, it's more of a just for me to gain, you know, knowledge. So I could. So
Yes.
it doesn't have to be in any sort of public forum that's going to subject us to 5 hours of testimony. So
Yes, okay. So we'll have Gary's, and Cynthia said she already had it. Cynthia, I'll let you know when I hear from Levine's office. If I have a link to anything that's fruitful, I'll let you know about that. And then we can I'll ask them to send me a calendar. I'll put myself on their email list. And if any of you want to be on their email list, send me your email address and I will include it. Jerry, do you want me to put you on as vice chair?
sure.
Okay. Anybody else, just feel free to let me know. Any other items from committee members? All right. Adjournment. Did we lose Joe? I was going to invite him to adjourn. There he is.
I will go ahead and adjourn. So I make a motion to adjourn to the next Coastal Advisory Committee scheduled for Thursday, September 10th, 2020 at 6:30 p.m. via teleconference or in the City Council chambers at San Clemente Civic Center, 100 Avenida Presidio, San Clemente, California.
Do I have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Turn on your lights.